I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't breathe. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Michelle, obviously, you know what this stuff was all about, right? It's not a surprise that we showed up tonight.
Almost overnight, she went from a possible witness to a person of interest in the case of a missing Mama 5 from New Canaan.
We see state police, New Canaan police, searching downtown Hartford.
So what's that about? Why is the scene moved to Hartford?
You need to tell us what you know about Jennifer's murder and Fotus DULOS.
Hello and welcome to, where are we? Day 11, trial day 11. Welcome everyone. It's quite a run that I'm doing. I don't often do lives, and this has been like a week of lives. So I hope you guys are finding it interesting. It's nice community building doing this because it's the same kind of community. We all come together around about the same time each day, and it's a kind of a shorter recap than watching all the footage. So what I'm going to do, first of all, hello, welcome. I am actually quite exhausted. I'm happy that we're at the weekend, so I'll take a 1 day off in terms of trial coverage, even though they're 2 days, of the weekend. And I'll probably cover Scott Peterson on Sunday. Okay, Timmy, come. Yeah, so I do want to cover Scott Peterson. I've kind of set a couple of targets for this month, and I'll probably not be as target oriented in February as I have been in January. Certainly not in terms of, I'm probably going to be more focused on fitness and that sort of thing in February. But Erica says, loving it and appreciate it very much. Thanks very much. I also want to get myself ready to cover quite a few trials this year. There is the Brian Koberger trial in June. Has a date been announced to that? I've only just see if it has been. But there are a bunch of trials. Summer 2025 trial date. Jeez, that's crazy. Okay. Well, anyway, besides that, there are quite a few trials. There's the Karen Reed trial in, I think it's March. There's the Christian Bruckner trial that's dealing with not really Madeleine McCann, but it's anyway European criminal that's starting in February. There's a trial. There's another trial starting very early in February. I can't quite remember what it is. There's the Murdoch case that's continuing. There's Chad Daybell on April 1st, appropriately enough. So yeah, just trying to get into position to cover those. So OCD, interesting profile name there. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen to some of her interview. I'm going to play a very pertinent part that's quite interesting. Then we're going to go through some highlights, just summaries of what happened today. And then we're going to go back to listening to. So that's really the plan. As I've said before on X, this is the critical moment. This is really, what you see on your screen right here is really what the jury have got to think about. Is Michelle Troconis in terms of this image, innocent? Is Michelle Draconis, in terms of this particular image at this moment, unaware of what's really going on?
The girlfriend in the middle of a bitter and brutal divorce battle.
And are we really supposed to think that in the context of so much money, such a contentious divorce, and she's, living with the perpetrator, that she really didn't know what was going on? Are we really supposed to believe that? In the face of inconsistent statements, does that mean she is an accessory after the fact, or that she actually conspired? Because there is quite a big difference between conspiring. I do think it does also come down to that alibi script. If you were, let's say, an innocent accessory, would you be working on a script with someone? Surely you'd be asking, why are we, if you weren't asking about the trash dumps, surely you would be asking, why are we working on a script together? And one thing that is really a big fluttering red flag is, in those scripts, there's no mention of the Hartford trips. A pretty flagrant omission, wouldn't you say? Anyway, let's go to a very, very interesting moment during today's trial, where they listened to the exhibit dealing with the questioning. The audio is not great. It is better. The visuals are quite a lot better. Still would be nice if they were even better than they are.
Yes, because that was Tuesday that I took it. After. Yes. And then the girl gave me another car, I don't know the brand, but you guys can call them. And
did you catch that? That she says something about she was being given another car, another van. I'm not sure when she says van if she just means SUV, but that is potentially yet another vehicle in the story. I'm not sure where we are. Someone on X said we might be at 9 vehicles, but I think we're somewhere at least around 7 or 8 vehicles now. It's pretty crazy.
so I drove to the house and she came like around 1 and we exchanged cars. She got me a Yukon, similar to the school one. Well, that's the car that I was driving.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you're in the studio.
Well, I rented because Andy said get rid of the car, don't have anything to do with Fotus. We were staying in the hotel where you guys arrested us. In the same hotel, I changed rooms and I got out of the Fotus account or point and I changed them and I'm staying there for a moment until the 12th, until I know, because I have no house, no car, no.
So you're upset with Fotus
Yes, of course.
because he implicated you in this whole mess.
So, yes, she's getting a little bit tearful in this moment, a little bit tearful. Let's just go back a few seconds. I don't want to go too far.
Point, and I changed them and I'm staying there for a moment until the 12th, until I know, because I have no house, no car, no.
So I don't know, the way I hear that, it sounds like she's almost crying because she doesn't have a car. Kind of a strange thing to be really upset about under the circumstances.
Yes, of course.
Because he implicated you in this whole mess.
Because of what you told me, I don't know.
What's upsetting you? What's your biggest thing that's upsetting you?
No problem,
Is it your house? What's upsetting you?
So did you hear what the guy said? What is upsetting you? It is quite interesting how she can testify or have conversations for hours, it looks like, and then she's fairly strong. And certainly at this point, she suddenly gets upset. And look how she's raising her hands, almost like, stop, I've had enough, kind of thing. She's overwhelmed. And this is where she says something really interesting. And I think it's important to ask the question, as the officer has, what are you so upset about? And pay very careful attention to the answer. I've got my notepad ready. I've already listened to this part, but we want to take a couple of notes. It's not just one thing that's upsetting her, it's a couple of things. So let's see what she says is upsetting her. It's a really important question. Are you upset that you're being investigated for murder? Are you upset that your boyfriend is? Are you upset that you don't have a car? What's upsetting you? Are you upset that Jennifer's missing?
Okay. Is it your relationship's over with Fotus? Is that what's
No,
happening?
it's like
Is it
the
that-
whole thing that I can be in prison because of this.
What's the thing that's getting to you most right now?
Did you hear what she just said? He said something like, is it because of your relationship with Fotus, meaning that I guess it's over? And then she says, no, it's that I could be in prison. She doesn't seem to be worried about him. She seems to be worried about her own situation. Let's just listen to that again.
Implicated you in this whole mess.
Because of that, because of what you told me, I don't know.
What's upsetting you? What's the biggest thing that's upsetting you right
The problem
now?
that
Is it your house? That's upsetting you more? Okay. Is it your relationship's over with Fotus? Is that what's
No,
happening?
it's like
Is it
the
that-
whole thing that I can be in prison because of this.
What's the thing that's getting to you most right now?
That
Which part?
I can be like accessory. I don't remember what's the title because of him.
That you could be in jail because of him?
Yes.
Does it upset you that
Pero
Jennifer
of course him.
does
Pero and he is everything. But it's like obviously I have to see myself right now, and I'm
Absolutely.
worried that I have a daughter and I'm gonna be in a jail for I don't know.
we don't want that to happen?
Either.
No.
Either.
Now, I can't help thinking, Jeepers, are you only realizing that now? Right? It's strange that the penny seems to be dropping only now. This is, I think, the second interview, and I think they're into, I think it's almost 2 hours into this particular second interview.
We're actually trying to keep that, right, to minimize whatever kind of jail time you're facing. You have to break away fully though from the idea that you and Fotus are
No,
together.
I don't.
Yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens. Rack your brain.
No, but
That's
you
right,
have to
right.
understand me, like
No.
it's hard for
We
me to see
understand.
this person that supposedly was because with me, well, at least I never felt that he did. He never hit me. He never like talked aggressively to me. Yes, we have fights as couples, but I'm also very dominant when it comes to fight. I don't let myself down because I don't want that. I don't know. I was in Colorado, and one night I didn't call him because Nicole's dad and we were having a conversation. The next day, the text is like, "You're a liar. Tell me where to take your things, or where to send your things," and send me my 2 pairs of skis. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And I got so upset. I said, "Yes, put them in a container and send them here to Colorado." And then 3 hours after, he was calling, "Oh, I'm sorry. I know I was upset." And that's all in the Texas. If you can see them in my WhatsApp.
We have no doubt that's who he is. That's what he's about.
Okay, but I didn't know that at this extent.
How about the conversations after Jennifer's disappearance? How was his demeanor towards you? Is there any headbutting going on? This stuff is starting to break the news like you said in the last meeting, there's cops on your road. So what is your conversations with him? During this, I mean, honestly, excuse my husband.
Yes, I said, this is enough, this is too much, this thing has really gone completely out of control. I'm fed up. After this is finished and she appears, I'm leaving. I'm going to Colorado. I really don't want to be involved anymore. It's been 2 years of torture of.
So this is the part that's important to note. She says, "I've had enough. I'm finished. After this, I'm done. Blah blah blah." And so I can imagine her saying that to him anyway. I'm really having enough of this. And then what has she had enough of? She talks about 2 years of torture. She talks about it being a nightmare, right? 2 years of torture. What is 2 years of torture? The battle with Jennifer DULOS, which she's kind of been sucked into. She calls that also a nightmare. And doesn't that make her resentful of Jennifer DULOS? Doesn't that make her dislike, perhaps even hate Jennifer DULOS?
Quarrels and upset, and I'm not used to this. And my life has never been in conflict. And since I met you and I moved to Colorado, to Connecticut, it's been like a nightmare.
Since I've moved to Connecticut, it's been a nightmare, right? And Chris Watts used the same term. He was saying it's like a nightmare I just want to wake up out of. I can't wake out of.
And how do you respond to that?
And he's like, everything's gonna be okay. Don't worry, I'm sorry. Please don't leave me. This is gonna get.
And you can imagine that this is true, that Fotus did say, don't worry, we'll sort it out. I've got a plan, trust me, right? All of that kind of thing.
Better, don't worry, we're gonna go through this. Like,
So he keeps talking about we, and he's asking you not to leave him, right? Right?
yes.
Why do you think he's doing that? I'll tell you why I think he's doing that. Because he knows that you have information that if you're.
So look at her body language again. She is feeling quite vulnerable at this point. She's quite tearful. Can you see the expression on her face as well? I'm not 100% sure that the way she's saying it here is as what you see is what you get, as what the officer seems to think. Because she says somewhere here that he begs her to stay, right? He begs her to stay. And we've seen her begging her own lawyer to stay, literally where she goes on to her knees. And I don't kind of get the idea Fotus is the begging type. If you look at his unalive note, right? He doesn't even try and stick it out himself. He says here, I had nothing to do with it. I don't think he says anywhere in this note, I beg you or anything. He says something like, please leave them alone. He says, I wanted to be known that Michelle had nothing to do with it. He calls it a disappearance. Neither did that person. He says, I asked the state to let them be free. He doesn't say, I beg you. He doesn't say, I'm pleading with you. Over there, he just says, please let my children know, blah, blah, blah. Bear in mind, this is a very serious note. And there's not really that much emotion in it. He's fairly resigned. He says, if you are reading this, I'm no more. I refuse to spend even an hour, blah, blah, blah. You can imagine he used the same language with Michelle Troconis. I refuse to deal with this. I'm not going to deal with that. He also says here, I want to thank all of my family that stood by me, and he says, I'm sorry. But is there any begging or pleading or like sort of desperation in this note? He says, please, I think maybe once or twice. Let's have a look. He says, stop harassing my friends. He doesn't say, please stop harassing them. He just says, I think he uses the word please once. There, please let my children know. The please is for his children, right? And she's saying that he begged her not to leave. And within a very short time, he had a new girlfriend. So do you think that that part is true? Do you think she was begging him to sort out the situation because she couldn't handle it anymore? Or do you think she's telling the truth here? What do you think?
You're away from him, separated from him, it's gonna get him in. That's what we're trying to. He is keeping you with him to control you and to make sure that you don't give up some information accidentally.
He said
That shows you.
It could be information that you don't even know. Yeah, you don't know about, so we're trying to extract it out of you.
so in his mind he said what?
So you just heard another voice there. There are quite a few people in this room with her. It's these three individuals, and then there's also at least one woman over here, and then her lawyer. So that's where things stand. After the first interview, there's now, and I think there's even another person came in at one point. I'm not sure if he's in the room at the moment, but after her first interview, you know, she hasn't really succeeded in convincing the cops. There are now more people that are looking at her, questioning her, listening to her.
In his mind, when I heard that, I thought he loved me and that he wanted to be with me and calling his 5 kids and be all together and supposedly, I don't know. Like, the thing I don't understand, there's a report that supposedly was favorable for him, and he was happy about that, for what I understand.
That's when you have a lot of money.
So yeah, you're getting a sense of the real Michelle Troconis. She can come across flat. She can come across kind of nonchalant. She can come across kind of straightforward and unemotional, I guess. And then she can be completely different, be very emotional, not just emotional, very emotional, tearful, waving her hands, on her knees, all that sort of thing. This is someone who can be very emotional. And if you think about the scenario that we're dealing with, a very what's the opposite of an amicable divorce? What's the opposite of an amicable divorce? A contentious divorce here from Tegan. What word do they normally use when they talk about if it's not an amicable divorce? Acrimonious, that is the word. Acrimonious. Doesn't that word just say it all? Right? Look at that description. An acrimonious divorce is one where there is bitterness. An acrimonious divorce occurs where one spouse has treated the other spouse so badly that reconciliation is not possible at all. Right? And nasty can be fatal in some cases, right? And this was definitely one of the most acrimonious divorces you can imagine 300 motions in 2 years, right? So it's extremely acrimonious. And here is Michelle Troconis on the sidelines. And is she someone who can get emotional about things? And I've had a couple of looks at Fotus DULOS. He's quite a good-looking man, aside from his personality, aside from his assets, aside from his lifestyle. He's quite a handsome guy, right? He could be a movie star. Do you agree? And so wasn't she really in love with him? I mean, she was in an affair with him, so wasn't she really in love with him? Here's a picture of Fotus DULOS. And think about the kind of guy he is. On paper, he's got this company and she works for him. He drives these really cool cars, and that's quite a nice look as well. But he's also this fit water skier. I also saw a little thing where he's got a ankle bracelet on and he's jogging, and he's in good shape. You know, he's for a guy his age, he's pretty on the ball, right? He on paper he seems like a very more a much more accomplished individual than Chris Watts. He seems to have a lot of money. He seems to have a nice house. He seems to have a full life. He seems to have a very he seems to have it all. And the one thing that's not happy in his life is this divorce that's dragging on. And she's been dragged into that. How does she deal with it? How does she deal with it?
We could hire a lot of attorneys to report the divorce stuff. I mean, that's just.
Is that the latest
That
report?
report with her psych stuff. I mean,
There was a psychology
Yeah.
and evaluation test done through Dr. Herman, which he interviewed me when I was in Colorado through Skype.
Yes.
And apparently that report that they sealed it, and I spoke with Mike Rose, they were driving, saying that this report came very favorable, and he was happy about the report. So that's why it doesn't. And he was like, "We're gonna get the kids. I'm gonna have the kids legal custody." So he
He's
actually,
painting a really nice picture for you guys.
Yes.
and he said, "Don't like, I don't know where the words are like." Don't be surprised that soon you're gonna be like mother of 6.
Well,
How do you feel about that? I'm like, oh, I know the kids. They're super nice kids. They're super. I mean, of course I'm gonna love. I love them because.
When was that? When did he say that to you? Don't be surprised that you're gonna be the mother of 6.
When he got the report, I'm talking about like when the report came out.
How long ago was that?
Was it 2 weeks, 3 weeks before?
Did you hear that? He apparently said to her, "Don't be surprised if you become the mother of 6." Right? In other words, she's got a child and he's got 5 kids.
You guys can have. Do you have the
Yeah,
report?
no, just.
When did that report came out? It was like before Greek Easter, so it was before the 28th of April.
April 28th?
No,
Before
24th.
that.
Before, because the 28th of April was Easter.
So she seems to be saying this was said before Jennifer disappeared in April. Remember, she disappeared 24th of May.
My family came all the way from Miami and Cincinnati to spend Easter, and it was the report was within that week because he told everybody he was super happy. We even did the Greek dance. And he was happy about the report, and my girls came to the East. Great Easter, and he said everything's gonna be okay. The report came good. Fotus told me that she has like a borderline. We even went to talk to Humphrey, to his.
He's very good at what he does. You have to realize when he comes to what
So I'm not sure if I heard correctly, but it sounded like she said Fotus says she has borderline. Now, I don't know if that means borderline what. But remember, she's got a degree in psychology. And I think that's also quite an interesting aspect to this, is she knows how to think about thinking. She knows, right? And so is that part of what's going on here as well? Is there a bit of psychology that is being used to manipulate the people that she's with through psychology?
he told you, it's probably self-serving for him.
I think so.
Have you ever noticed Jennifer to be unfit with the children?
I never met her.
You've never met her at all?
The only time I saw her 2 seconds was in summer of 2017, at some point in August. He had to have the kids with supervised, and the judge gave him permission to have the kids in the pond and with the supervised. And they were supposed to say they had to leave at 12. I don't remember what time. It was from 9 to 12, the activity. And I called him because I was driving, and it was already 12. And I called to say, did they leave? And he said, no, wait, don't come in yet, they haven't left. So I parked outside the pond in the road.
So I can't help thinking about this kind of in animal terms, and you might object to that and say, well, that's oversimplifying. It's just not right to do that. We're human beings, we're not animals. But if you think about this in animal terms, imagine Fotus is a lion, and these are 2 female lions, right? And basically the female lion, who's originally part of the tribe or the pride, is expelled in some way or another. Either let's just say is unwillingly expelled, the female lion, the lion that's originally part of this pride, and another lion comes in there, another female lion, and that female lion takes over the role of the original lion, right? But think about it, the female lion who was originally there basically, and in reality, in the reality of lions, the females really do all the work. The females catch the prey. They do most of the hunting. The males tend to square off against one another, and they sort of lie around. But the females really do a lot of the work. And sometimes a male, if he wants to procreate, or he will kill cubs, and that'll then bring the female into heat again. In any event, you sort of get the feeling that the female lion who had once occupied this pride, which is exactly what Jennifer did, somehow gets expelled, and you can imagine against her will, she didn't want to leave. And there's now another female lion there, and that female lion wants to be there. She wants to be there in this nice cocoon that was really created in a way by the other one, right? And so you can imagine how there's bitterness between, especially the 2 female lions. The one is there literally at the expense of the other, and the other one is literally feeling the threat of the one that was there originally, right? And if you think about it, the female lion that's been expelled, kicked out, is actually, in a sense, the more powerful lion, because she's the one holding all the cards. In the reality of these human beings, the female lion that was Jennifer DULOS had all the money. All of this property was really came through her. And so now that, do you follow my reasoning? You can see how there would be a very real threat between, a very real contest between the two females in this story. Michelle wanting to hold on to what she's found or stumbled into, and Jennifer wanting to basically, what's the word? Get back her investments and get back what is due to her. I mean, would you want someone else to live in your house, kind of thing?
Under a tree, and all of a sudden, a minute later, a suburban comes. It was dark, window, I didn't see, and all of a sudden it gets really close, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna hit my mirror. And when I looked, Jennifer was with the phone like this, trying to take a picture of me. So I saw that, and then I realized that it was her. So I went like this, like around her, and I went inside the pond. And I think there was a motion that I was supposed that I was in the pond there, which is not true. I was never in the pond, I was outside.
So this is a really important moment. It's just her talking about seeing Jennifer. It's just a little moment where Michelle, the mistress, is supposed to, and think about it also from this perspective. Michelle didn't respect Jennifer in the sense of, well, her husband was still married. She came into the scene secretly and inveigled her way in to the extent that Jennifer was became the odd one out, effectively. Jennifer had to leave her own home, and guess who moved into her place? But what's interesting in this little section here is you can see how defensive Michelle is. Look at her body language there. Look how kind of strident those finger gestures are, right? And also you can hear the emotion again in her voice. You can hear that although there was no, according to her, there was no verbal interaction or anything. It was nevertheless something that made her feel quite emotional. I would be very interested to know if there really were verbal interactions. It's very hard for me to imagine there never were any over 2 years. 2 years of dropping kids off and all that sort of thing. And a question I would want to ask if I was sitting there is quite simple. How do you feel about Jennifer? What are your thoughts and feelings about Jennifer? And just get her to try and open up about that. I personally don't believe that this is the only time. She seems to be minimizing how often or how seldom she interacted, and that the interaction didn't involve any actual words. I find it very hard to believe.
In public road. But she, for what Fotus told me, she made a motion that Mrs. Troconis was in the pond and I saw the kids. Anyway, that's what Fotus told me.
Michelle, I wanted, you have to have.
So I don't think it's a surprise, but Yari's confirmation that she's in the thick of all of these judgments. Every time something happens, there's a motion, a motion, and as a result of that motion, there's emotion, there's a reaction to it. And so you can see how directly involved Michelle is. I mean, I don't think it's rocket science. I think it's obvious. But it's interesting here. You see her body language. She's waving her hands quite a lot. It's impossible that she wouldn't be emotionally invested given the situation she's in. Let's just play that part again. Let's go over here.
The pond in the room under a tree. And all of a sudden, a minute later, a suburban comes. It was dark, I didn't see. And all of a sudden, it gets really close, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna hit my mirror. And when I looked, Jennifer was with the phone like this, trying to take a picture of me. So I saw that, and then I realized that it was her. So I went like this, like around her, and I went inside the pond. And I think there was a motion that I was supposed that I was in the pond there, which is not true. I was never in the pond. I was outside in public road. But she, for what Fotus told me, she made a motion that Mrs. Draconis was in the pond, and I saw the kids. Anyway, that's what Fotus told me.
Michelle, I wanted.
Yeah, and I mean, that is ultimately what happened as a result of, I don't think, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think Jennifer DULOS was upset about Michelle being near the kids if Michelle wasn't near the kids, kind of thing. And that was a condition that had been set out, that her children shouldn't be exposed to the mistress, right? And I don't know if you guys know, we dealt with this previously. Fotus told the kids to lie about that, and this story just seems to be icing on that cake. This is lying about the fact that she wasn't anywhere near the kids. I'm not sure if she talks about that in any more detail. I think it's quite funny the way she grabs the, I think it's the detective's phone to demonstrate taking a photo, and then he quickly takes it back. I thought that was quite funny.
You have to have a shift in your thinking, okay? Who's the gentleman sitting right here? Okay. Why is he here? He's here, whose interest is he serving? Right. We actually are trying to kind of serve yours as well. And Jennifer. Okay. Whose interest does Fotus serve?
What?
Who's Fotus interested
In himself.
in? Himself. So everything that Fotus has told you is suspicious. I'm not saying everything's a lie, but everything is suspect. And probably a lot of it is false, and it's to serve himself. So you have to listen first to your attorney, and then you have to listen to us through your attorney. You're trying, right? So when you talk about things that Fotus has told you, you have to read.
So another thing to think about is, if you think about, someone was saying here that they thought Michelle did this just for the money. And I think it could be both. It could be love and money, and maybe more of the one than the other. But what is very interesting here is she has been living with this guy. She's been dealing with the crap of someone going through a divorce. She's been, part of that whole shitstorm. And is she still in love with him? Is she defending him? Now, she doesn't seem to be accusing him, but at the same time, she doesn't really seem to be concerned about him. She also doesn't seem to be singing his praises. She seems to have herself as her number one priority. And I think maybe that's what Fotus and her have in common, is they're both selfish. They're both selfish people.
Really suspect what? Okay, so who is Fotus' good friends? Who are his best friends? His right hand. Mark.
Marciano.
Okay.
Like he lives in
We
Florida.
that's influence names.
And then Andreas,
Okay.
that he's a Greek. And he's a
Are
Greek.
these workers?
No, friends.
Here in the United States, where they.
Mark, yes, he lives in Providence, and we went to Rome together, but they met way before because of the water ski world. And they, I think, Fotus said him, they're friends from like 18 years old. Andreas, the last name.
I must say, I find hand gestures very interesting. They're very, Timmy, I'm going to have to put you down. Sorry, Whoopi. They're very dismissive, you know, that sort of thing. When she talks about the past, that sort of thing. I don't, when I'm upset, I don't think I'm even that. I don't think I gesture in such a flippant way. She's very flippant and dismissive in her hand gestures, isn't she? So we're going to take a little bit of a break from this, and we're going to go through a little bit of a summary. There's an excellent summary from the Connecticut Insider that just kind of abbreviates a lot of this trial day very, very well. So it's this article over here. There is John Schoenhorn. I think his name means shoemaker or shoe shaper in German or Dutch. But this is a really good article if you want to check it out. Andrea says, I can't read Michelle at all. That's a really good place to start, is be curious and watch and listen and learn. But the more time you spend watching her, the better. For me, the problem is it's still, the audio quality is still not terribly good. So one thing I've noticed that's quite a big tell is that she can seem very passive and very unemotional, and then she can also seem very, very emotional. And one does wonder, are those both a performance? So anyway, according to this article, these are some of the highlights. A former employee could testify next week. And guess who it is? It's Pavel Gumeni. I think he's a very important witness. I don't want to set this off. Okay. So Pavel Gumeni is going to testify next week. I get the feeling that he was being set up as the fall guy here for two reasons. The one is, I think, some of the most important disposal, one of the most important parts of the disposal relay in terms of vehicles used was that Toyota Tacoma. And I think a heck of a lot of blood evidence was left in that vehicle, possibly deliberately, but so much blood evidence that the seats had to be replaced. I mean, that wasn't the case in the Chevy Suburban. So was that done on purpose to implicate him? That's the one part of that. The other part is this. And thanks to Stephanie for drawing my attention to this. Can you guys see that headline? Investigators in Jennifer DULOS case believe Fotus may have shaved head to frame employee, right? In other words, he may have asked Michelle to shave his head so that he looked like his employee, right? And again, Michelle is part of that as well. He doesn't just shave his head by himself. She shaves his head. And that, again, makes you wonder, Cheapers, is this not a conspiracy between the two of them, right? It's amid a contentious divorce. It's amid a acrimonious divorce. She's there when that's happening as well. So it says here, both lead investigators told the New Haven Register that Fotus DULOS shaved his head just days before Jennifer vanished. There could be at least two reasons for that. One of them being even anyway, there could be two reasons for that. The one is to frame Gumini so that someone says, yeah, I actually saw a guy with a shaved head. Oh, well, there's a guy that works for me with a shaved head, okay? But the other reason could be to minimize evidence transfer. You know, if you cut your hair, then you commit a crime, there's less hair that can be left at the crime scene, right? And hair is a pretty important thing that ends up being evidence in crime scenes. Hair is a very big part of the Lacey Peterson case. It's a huge part of the Rex Heuermann case, right? So it's possible that it had a dual purpose here. Gumeni, who has short cropped hair, is the owner of the red Toyota pickup. And so think about it, if Fotus is driving that pickup and his hair's cut short, you're not going to think, oh, somebody else is driving his vehicle. You're going to think, if you get a quick glimpse, you might think, yeah, it was the guy who owns that vehicle was driving the vehicle. It does really feel more and more like a conspiracy, doesn't it? Fotus DULOS later had the pickup truck washed and detailed. He even instructed Gumini to switch the truck's rear seats with ones from another Fotus vehicles. Gumini later turned the original seats over to the state police. The test showed that Jennifer DULOS's DNA was on one of them. So Jennifer DULOS was definitely in that vehicle. Kimball told the New Haven Register that Gumini was surprised by Fotus's new aesthetic. He told investigators that he even made a comment to Fotus in the days before Jennifer vanished. By the way, they drained that septic tank, but they didn't find anything. If we go back to this, so that's something to look forward to next week. The testimony of Pavel Gumini. I must say, if I was him, I'd be pretty angry, and yeah, I'd be pretty angry at being made kind of the fall guy. Imagine someone took your vehicle to commit a murder with it. Then this is really interesting. Can you guys see that? A weather map was entered into evidence. Just after 4 p.m., Schuenorn entered a National Weather Service map into evidence to draw attention to the fact that it rained in Farmington. Now, do you remember that part of Michelle's story was that the night before the murder, she went to her daughter's bedroom and got into bed with her daughter because her daughter was afraid because of thunderstorms. Let me ask you guys, the mothers here, do you know of any 12-year-olds that are afraid of thunderstorms? Or 12-year-olds typically afraid of thunderstorms? Do you think that is likely or believable? Like a 12-year-old isn't, I mean, a 12-year-old is almost a teenager. So Casey says yes, but most of you are saying no. The other thing is, even if there was some rain, it doesn't mean that there'd be thunderstorms. And thunderstorms at night are quite rare. I'm talking about late at night, at midnight. Thunderstorms are quite rare. I can't speak about Connecticut weather in Connecticut in May. Is it stormy in May in Connecticut? People who live there might know better than I do. Alina says thunderstorms can be scary to anyone, including pets. Well, I guess it depends on the thunderstorm, doesn't it? Did the thunderstorm, was it blitzing so badly that it actually woke her up? Are the curtains turning white behind these blitzes? So anyway, so the defense is saying that makes sense. There was bad weather that night. And in other words, what the defense attorney is trying to do is undermine the testimony from the cops, where the police dismissed Draconis's assertions that she'd woken up in the middle of the night, right? They say they've got apps that said it showed minimal precipitation that night. In other words, they were saying there's doubt about her statement. And what do you think? What do you think about that? So is it at least conceivable that the sources you were looking at were not actually looking at the Farmington West Hartford area? Shunhan asked. Yes, it is conceivable. So what's happening is the defense attorney is trying to undermine the officers as a way to make his client look better. It's one way of doing it. Another way of thinking about it is these interrogation tapes do undermine Michelle to the jury. And so the defense response is to undermine the people questioning her, some of the points that they made. So on that question, on which side do you stand? Do you think that the story Michelle came up with is true and reliable or not? Because there's another possibility, and that possibility is, did the conspiring, did the the planning of this crime actually take place late that night? So when she's saying she was in bed with her daughter, was she actually helping Fotus plan the murder? Then Schoenhorn says people react differently to being arrested. I've got to say, in true crime, this is something that I see the most, or very often, whenever it sort of becomes a thing of, is that person suspicious? And it tends to be quite widespread. So in the Madeleine McCann case, there was a sense that simultaneously that the McCanns didn't seem very emotional, and also that their PR campaign seemed very slick, right? And when this issue is raised, the response, the defense to that was, oh, people react differently. When the Ramseys went onto CNN, and when they dealt with things, the way the defense story was, people react differently. Well, most innocent people wouldn't react in that way. They wouldn't hire a PR spokesperson. They wouldn't. They would show emotion, right? And this is a very popular defense, that if someone's effect seems strange to most people, oh no, but people react differently. That is true generally, that people are different, but it's also true that when something distressing happens, most people look distressed. Amanda Knox, her defense was also, she's a unusual kind of person and everyone reacts differently. So where Amanda Knox was in the police area and knew that her friend had been murdered, everyone else was very sober, very somber, very serious. And she was flirting with her boyfriend, sitting on his lap and kind of seeming to make jokes and in a totally different mood, apparently. And this is kind of a way of saying no matter how red the flag is from affect, you can dismiss that by just saying people react differently. Whereas I feel, although affect isn't a science, you can't say if someone their affect is off, that they're definitely guilty. It's an intuitive thing that is almost always relevant. So to say, I'm not even going to look at affect because people react differently, that's not what law enforcement are taught. I mean, what we're doing now with Michelle Troconis is we are trying to read her affect, in part because we can't quite tell what she's saying, right? But what I'm trying to say is it is a default defense to say, oh, there's some problems with this person's affect. Some of what they did, some of their behavior is suspicious or questionable, right? Oh, but they just react differently. Is it as simple as that? Queen Boadicea, good to see you here. I hope you've got your clothes on. You guys know the story of Boadicea. So anyway, in the afternoon reset, Schuenon began his cross-examination by pointing out the then detective's AV equipment was much better than when the first interview took place. That's true. Then he says he noted that state police arrested Troconis late at night in front of her daughter and drove her to the New Canaan Police Department, arriving early in the morning, June 2nd. And so what he's trying to do is, it's the Amanda Knox argument. You are intimidating my client. You have put her through duress. She's compromised because she hasn't had a lot of sleep, and so on and so on. If you didn't know this, would you think that she was so tired given the interview? I mean, does she ever say, I'm really tired? She had to wait several more hours for her attorney to arrive. Then Schoenhorn says, in terms of Kimball's training and interrogation tactics, people react to unknown situations for a lot of people if they suddenly find themselves in police custody. Well, he asked, how do people react? And Kimball stared blankly back at him. We'll try and look at that moment. What is the question? Judge Kevin Randolph interjected. He said, people react differently in your experience when they find themselves in police custody. Isn't that a fair statement? And although that is fair to say people react differently, I don't know whether you can say that when someone reacts in a way that is not what you expect, that you just say, yeah, well, people react differently. And this is a big point. I did make it earlier. In terms of the alibi scripts, those timelines didn't include the critical evidence disposal, which is a serious problem, I think, for Michelle Troconis. I mean, it's not as though she put out an honest alibi script, because if it was an honest alibi script, it would have contained that, right? This is a major problem. Why is something you did, she may say, yeah, an attorney said we must do this. Okay, fair enough. So then why is this not honest? Why is it not complete? Is that also part of reacting differently? Did she leave it out because she was tired? So Kimball was asked, is there any mention of dumping trash in that timeline? No, there's not. That's a serious problem. And so if Michelle Troconis is lying about something this serious, if Michelle Troconis is omitting such serious information, then what else is being omitted? There was no mention in the documents of the pair's trip to Hartford, where Troconis admitted to police they were seen on surveillance footage. So I don't think it's rocket science. She admitted she was there. She said she was on her phone, and you can see that there's a woman there, and I think her phone would place her there. Okay, let's go back to the interview.
It's great.
Is he here? Is Andreas?
No, it's in Greece. Andreas was here, in December.
Here's what I'm trying to get. And I'm not saying you have any information about specific situations, but if Fotus wanted to first.
I agree with Terry. I think, you've noticed how often I interrupted. I think if you're just sitting there watching this for 5-10 minutes, 20 minutes at a time, you kind of need a little bit of direction. You need to, you need certain things highlighted. And since they've got Kimball on the stand, they can basically say, what did you make, as I am, what did you make of her hand gestures? What did you make of her changes in emotion? When did you notice a change in tone, etc.?
And he wanted help, or he needed help, who might he use to help him?
Well, his best friend is Mark and Andreas. Andreas lives in Greece.
Okay.
Unless he's
Mark
here.
lives in Providence.
And Mark lives in Providence. And he's also going through a divorce, and they laugh about it because they say that they're going through the same. And he actually, his trial ended over what they did. I don't know what they want to do. I don't know about the court things, but he said that he was over with his case, with his divorce. And
What about Kent?
Kent is the lawyer of Fort Hood.
So just to deal with Bab's question, this is a reference to the alibi scripts, right? So in those 3 pages, there's no reference to the fact that they were in Hartford, right? That was omitted. So when you say, yeah, she did, when she was being interviewed, she did say, but bear in mind, she was shown screen grabs of the CCTV. And she said, yeah, I was there, and then we went to Starbucks. So it's to do with the alibi scripts that were found in a black bag in the home, I think in the mudroom. 3 pages. I think it's her handwriting and Fotus's handwriting.
So kind of Fotus are kind of business partners. He's a lawyer, it's his business.
No, Fotis always said Kent is a nice guy. I worked with him all my life, and he's
Did you ever meet Kent's wife?
No.
Do you know if Fotus ever communicated with Kent's wife?
Yes, they were communicating because supposedly, which I think it's weird, the wife apparently put like a rape, case against.
So I don't know if you've noticed, but her hand and arm movements are totally different in this interview than they were in the first one. In the first one, they were quite guarded. So she would fold her arms. She would do this. She would even put her head kind of in her arms, but they were like quite guarded. There's far more flourishing, almost like she's brandishing a sword. What I'm going to do is go back about a minute, and I'm not going to play the audio, and I just want you to focus on her hand movements, arm movements, and think about what that says about her, not what she's saying, but what the hand gestures, arm movements are saying about her.
But he said that he was over.
Yeah, I've got the sound off. And how you can get a kind of a balanced perspective of that is if you look at the officers, their hand gestures are quite small, quite modest, quite controlled, right? Would you use those words to describe her gestures? Small, modest, controlled. Let's listen. Let's watch some more. The sound is muted. So a couple of things to note. You can look at it in a couple of dimensions. You can compare her body language to theirs in terms of how big or small are the motions. The other one is how fast is she moving. So you'll see the officer kind of go like this, and you see her hands flap quite a lot quicker. And if you ask me, a lot of her hand gestures are completely unnecessary, and they seem to be kind of a distraction because you end up looking at her hands, and what you really want to be looking at is you want to be listening to what she's saying and looking at her face, right? And so there's a lot of hand flapping going on, which distracts you. But the other thing is that hand flapping is showing quite a passionate person. And if you want to imagine it, imagine one of the officers on this side doing the same hand flapping that she's doing. I mean, you could almost imagine if one of them is saying, you did commit this crime because we went over there and we read this document. Here is the I can go right now and fetch that document and I can bring that here. And what do you think is going to happen to you? Right? That would be the gestures going with that kind of urgency in statement, right? She's speaking in a fairly calm way, but with these very expressive gestures. But imagine any one of these three officers here using those kind of hand gestures. Imagine if her lawyer turns to her and says, I've been writing this down, and can you please speak slower? Because earlier you said that, and now you said something else, and now I've had to cross that out. It just is a very expressive way of talking, which seems quite kind of unnecessary. If you think about some people that we've seen in the situation, she's one of the more expressive people with her hands. So there you've just seen the officer. It's quite measured. It's quite measured, and it's sort of just a little bit in front of him. His hand doesn't go over his sort of chest level or his shoulder level. So that's quite an interesting. She goes like that. Can you see both my hands? And then like that, from being almost like completely open to completely folded. And so you've got to wonder, what kind of person is she to live with? Is she stable? Is she someone who gets easily upset? Is she normal? Does she have like a normal emotional range, or quite a unusual emotional range? But what I see quite a lot of is quite a sort of flippant thing with her hands. It's quite flippant. Anyway, let's listen to what they're saying.
After the
construction,
they cost like, I don't know, I think my budget is like $5,000, and
That's too much for Fotus.
I don't know. I'm just saying that he puts it in a budget, and that's what I see. And then when everything, the construction is out, he returns them. I don't know. Listen, I don't work for Ford. I was helping him because I have my rods, I have my daughter, and it's just because I have time to do things, and I cannot be just sitting around. But he doesn't pay me. I wasn't an employee. I did help him with photos, with all that, because I like that.
So you guys live in maintenance, right? These guys, house.
So she's also minimizing the work relationship. She seems to be saying, I wasn't employed by the Ford Group. I was just helping him. But you see that photo of her accepting an award, it feels like she was working there. Also, she did like marketing for the photo, for the Ford Group. So she's minimizing that aspect as well.
Yes.
No, I don't
So
have.
separate. Give you money regularly.
The only thing I have is a credit card that I use.
And I think that's really an interesting word. Is she overreactive? What does that mean, to be overreactive? It means, are you reacting too little, or are you reacting too much? Are you reacting reasonably and rationally, or are you reacting unreasonably and irrationally? Right? So yes, just overreactive in a couple of images. Is she a overreactive person? What does overreactive mean? It means
overreact.
Respond more emotionally than is justified. Get upset over nothing or react disproportionately. Get overexcited. Go too far. Act irrationally. Lose your sense of proportion. Exaggerate. make something out of nothing, go over the top, right? But that's also a good one. React disproportionately, get overexcited.
Overreact.
And don't you get the sense that she is someone who can overreact? I mean, we've seen her going on her knees, begging her lawyer, and we see these really extravagant hand gestures. She does come across as a very passionate person, doesn't she?
For supermarket and gas. Then, if I have to buy something for Nicole, for myself, my insurance, my cell phone, my expenses of my home in Colorado, my Nicole's school, if I do my hair,
That's all.
that's all my money.
What is, like,
Fotus doesn't get, when we travel, yes, he pays
it
for the
takes care
travel,
of it, yeah.
for the tickets.
Right.
But then the rest, like when I'm in Colorado, I pay for everything. We don't have bank accounts together. I only have a credit card. I can give it to you. I don't want it
Now,
anymore.
if you don't, I don't want to get too private finances, but on any given week,
This is
how much
the-
do you have a savings and a checking, or is it, you would be, yeah? Like, how are you financially? You're on your own.
I'm on my own with
Very,
my
very good, or you just,
No,
you know,
no,
me, I can say, there's been times I live paycheck to paycheck, this is what it is.
No,
No, are you?
when I'm complicated, I ask my mom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. I don't want to.
No, we're just trying to get a handle on the
But you
relationship, the
can-
dynamics of your relationship, and
No, we don't have anything in common, nothing.
So when Fotus goes to visit the children, and he goes for a supervised visit, Jennifer is usually in the area or there.
Sorry, again?
When Fotus goes to visit
In
his children, out in New Canaan, and for the supervised visits, and Jennifer's there. How does that make you feel?
So, I mean, the question isn't, is this someone who overreacts? Is this someone who's emotional? The question is this someone who overreacted in the middle of a really acrimonious custody battle that went on like for 2 years in the context of these incredibly large mansions, this incredible extravagance, this incredible lifestyle, going on water skiing trips, flying here and there, having this incredible fairy tale life. And is this someone who could who could overreact in the face of being in a situation as a mistress while there's a unresolved divorce going on where somebody else is actually owns a lot of the stuff that is funding all of this lifestyle stuff. She's kind of inheriting all of that stuff before and while the custody battle's underway. When the custody battle has been concluded, what do you think is going to happen? Will you continue living there? Will you continue having the lifestyle that you have been enjoying? What do you think is going to happen? I think it's a really strong point that she's like this female lion that pushes the other one out, and thus she inherits this wonderful cocoon that was created by the other lion. Well, how do you think the other lion feels about that? How do you think she feels about the other lion possibly coming back to reclaim her territory?
From my understanding, they weren't talking or sending messages or nothing for the past 2 years. It's always been with the supervisor, and for what he tells me, it's like, oh, she didn't give me the kids because instead of one, it was two, and apparently it's always chaotic. That's what he always told me.
So I don't think it's very helpful to say, I use my hands or I'm very expressive. This is about her. This is about how does she express herself. And, right, so I wouldn't make it that personal to say, I think I'm quite an expressive person with my hands as well. I think creative people feel the need to express themselves, besides just verbally. but it's not really. Again, don't conflate this with everybody and yourself. She's in the hot seat here, and the question is she demonstrating a kind of calm, stable, reasonable response to questions, or is she kind of overreacting? Is it overly demonstrative? It's not just the body language, it's the body language and the tone and how the body language is kind of first open, then closed. How vigorous is it? How fast are these motions as well? Is there just a lot of flapping constantly? Because that flapping is telling you something about what's going on inside of her, right?
And that they only communicate with a family wizard plan, that because it seems like everybody, and if it's through mail, they copy they CC their lawyers, and I think me.
So Mel says we need to look at her cultural background. Do you know that she was a television reporter? And I doubt whether when she was reporting on ESPN that she made these sort of hand gestures. Right? I doubt whether when she was on camera for national television that you would see this sort of thing.
Communication that he always said.
I think so too.
Now, after that report, for what he told me, they started having communications by phone. That she called him and she was like, well, I want to fix this. This is not working out. This has taken too long. This is what he told me. Then he said that apparently in one of the conversations, he said, do you know that your lawyer is milking you? Because, I mean, this report was to be favored to you, and he was the one who wanted her to be in the case. And he was the one pushing for me to go to New York and talk, and I was the one. You
must remember her background is in psychology and marketing, and so she's trying to sell a story, and she's using not just the words, but she's using her body, her hands to do that. She's trying to do that.
I think for what he told me, he put a motion to not have her. So apparently she said like, yeah, I get it. I think I'm bringing a friend of mine that is a lawyer, and that apparently, saying what he said, that Jennifer was getting it, that what's the name of Ruben, I think it's the name of her lawyer, was kind of.
So Elena says, I don't think she's overreacting. I don't think I think it's more about overacting. If you compare her over here to how we saw her yesterday, she's very, very different. She's far more demonstrative here than she was there. And remember on what note it ended. She thought that for a long time, they sat passively listening to her. And at the end, there was talk about a court appearance, and then there was this incredible gesture where she went on her knees, right? She seems to realize, she seems to be a little bit more aware in this interview that the odds are somewhat stacked against her, that she's got some explaining to do.
Like, taking advantage of the money and making this case long. This is what Fotus told me. That was like one big conversation. Then apparently they went to Fotus had the kids on a Saturday, and they went to a fair in New Canaan, where they have rides and all that, with the supervisor. And apparently Jennifer went with them. So I don't know, that's what he told me. My upsetness was that she's manipulating. She knows she's gonna lose the kids. Be careful, because if she really has borderline and depression and all the things that the report, supposedly for what he said, is true, she's playing you for this. So let that legal stuff work. Now you have that.
Did she say she's playing you? Did I hear that right? Did she say she's playing you? Jennifer's playing you?
She's telling us the kids, be careful, because if she really has borderline and depression and all the things that the report, supposedly from what he said, is true, she's playing you, Fotus. So let that legal stuff work. Now you have the power to work with the legal system. If that's true, that the report is okay, and that and Mihan was saying, I'm concerned about the kids, this is all what Fotus. I never spoke with Mihan, I've never seen the judge, I've never seen Ruben, I've never seen any of these people. And because
yeah, well, I must say, for me, there's a heck of a lot of chat and very little substance. But the correct way to analyze this is to only listen to it, to just pay attention to what is being stated, what are the statements, then to pay a heck of a lot of attention to body language. When does she cry? When does she fold her arms? When is she kind of frozen? Because that's also something. But it's also important to see them together. And then I guess there's a fourth dimension as well, which is when you know the case very, very well, because to some extent we're in the dark. When you know the case very, very well, then you come back and you look at these dimensions all together, but with with context, giving you a lot of insight as well, right? What would you expect to see? What would you expect to hear?
it was so like, no, don't worry, it's been nice, she's actually being very nice, she's being cooperative. I'm like, okay, I said, I want to talk to the therapist, because this is not normal. For me, she's making like a plan. And we went to talk to Henry 2 times.
So it's really interesting hearing how Michelle is talking about Jennifer as someone who's plotting, as someone who's playing someone else. I don't know, I find it quite interesting. Is that really what happened here? Because it seems like someone else was plotting, someone else was planning in a nefarious way. It seems a little like a Darvo thing that's going on here. Okay.
Together. Fotus and I with Humphrey sitting in front. And he's in West Hartford, Humphrey. And we explained the situation, so he said, Michelle, you stay out. If the kids come to the house, you don't mention Jennifer, don't talk bad, but try to do your best to, and if the kids mention this, and Fotus, you have to manage the situation, and you, Fotus, have to deal with all the divorce and okay. What I didn't know, and I told Andy yesterday, I think, the Wednesday before she disappeared, that Friday.
So, how can I put this? The key feeling that you want to test for here is, how does Michelle really feel about Jennifer? And I guess you can ask her that, but I think the other ways that you can get her to talk about Jennifer and share her feelings about what is going on. Okay, come on. Get her to share feelings about what is going on. But what you want to kind of measure, the thing you want to really look out for, is this above all, contempt. Now, and it's also something you want to look out for in any potential intimate partner homicide, right? With Chris Watts as well, didn't he have contempt for his kids when he talked about they're not going to get their dessert, and he laughs, right? And contempt. I remember Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book. I think it was called Thin Slicing, but he spoke about a study that was done where it had a very high degree of accuracy, where they polled couples that were either recently married or whatever, but they polled couples, and they found, without having to know all the dynamics, all the history of their romance, without doing personality tests, etc., on just one area, if there was a high level of contempt, then there was a very strong, just that contempt, there was a very strong, that was a very strong indicator that the couple wouldn't last, that the marriage wouldn't last, just that one indicator. And what is contempt?
Contempt.
It's scorn, disdain, disrespect, deprecation, disparagement, denigration. Scorn is really probably the best word. It is basically when you have contempt for somebody, you've reached the point where you've really written them off, where you don't really regard them as kind of an equal. You don't really pay any more attention to them anymore. You've dismissed them. They are not really someone. It's not really a person that. If you look at the opposite, it's. I thought I was going to show the opposite. Well, the opposite is respect, but contempt is not just disrespect. It is a little bit beyond that. And so the thing you want to look for here is if Michelle did conspire to murder Jennifer, then you want to check on this particular emotion.
Contempt.
Right? This feeling. Is there scorn, and how much is there? Does she seem like a scornful person? Now, when she talks about borderline and so on, I don't know, that seems like someone who does have disdain. And wouldn't anyone in her position isn't there mutual disdain going on here? And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Jennifer had a sense of disdain for her. But I mean, who is really in the wrong here? Jennifer was a mother of 5, providing for the family, a loyal spouse, a loving wife, and who's been treated scornfully here? Who is more deserving of disdain in this equation? So try and, as we watch the next couple of minutes, see if you can pick up indicators. There'll be a small one here and a big one there of contempt.
He goes supposedly to Grace Farms. When he goes to Grace Farms, usually I help him cook the food for the kids. That day I had to pick up Nicole, so I said, go to buy food in Bacabo. So apparently he called Bacabo and ordered salad and I don't know what else. And he goes in my mind to Grace Farms. I go with Nicole and Kim and Lauren, a friend of Nicole's and the mom. We go to Ichiro, to a Japanese restaurant in West Hartford to eat. And then we went to Icicles, and I get home at 9:30. He was already in the house. And so how was it? How was the cook? The kids good, we played basketball.
Okay, so I'm going to do what I did earlier. I'm going to just put the sound off. What she's saying doesn't seem to be particularly helpful or useful. Just look at her hand gestures and ask yourself, is it communicating contempt, disdain?
It was amazing seeing them. They all say hi. Okay. That's stay there.
Does this seem to be a person that is capable of contempt? A lot of contempt.
timeline, dumping trash. That's pretty interesting.
No, but this is, no, wait, but let me go
I'm
back.
just throwing it out there, this is kind of why we're
Okay. Jacob says, write down exactly where you guys did on Wednesday night, if you went inside Jennifer's house, what do you mean? Like, in my mind. And Fotus goes, no, I did not go in. And he said, make sure, where did you guys eat? And he was like, and it wasn't Puebla, the supervisor, I think it was someone else that day, I don't know. And I'm still listening to him, I'm like, what he's talking about? I'm going to Jennifer's house, like, he didn't tell me that. He told me he was going to Grace Farms. So when all this conversation, and Fotus was like, no, I didn't, but yes, I have the kids, we played, I don't have my hair with me. And I'm still like, but why I don't understand the house, Jennifer, Grace. So when they hung up, obviously, my mind, I started getting very angry. And I'm like, Fotus, where were you on Wednesday? Because you told me you went to Grace. Oh, I didn't tell you, I went to Jennifer, she bought a basketball arrow or whatever it's called.
Okay, so let's go back to those highlights. See if we can bring them up again. So that was something that came from her family members. Her family members are still supporting her. They say, my sister is not the right answer. And their statement is basically, they say, we're finally seeing how my sister attempted to cooperate. Not cooperated, attempted to cooperate. 3 times with the police, saying everything, trying to assist them as best as she could. Is that how you see it? That she is literally just saying everything that she can. It's all she's completely cooperating.
I want to say something as Michelle's sister. This is evidently a very hard day for us as well. We're finally seeing how my sister attempted to cooperate, not once, not twice, but 3 times with the police, saying everything, trying to assist them as best as she could in this case, and yet she was charged. And this was more than 10 hours of my sister telling them, I'll do anything to help you. I don't know anything. And so I know that everyone wants answers, but my sister's not the right answer. She doesn't know anything. She said that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, my sister's not the right answer. She doesn't know anything. Okay, so as I say, this is such a great article, really good recap. Draconis, I told Fotus I'm fed up, right? Draconis in the interview told that Fotus DULOS was never violent. He never hit me, he never talked aggressively. We did have fights as couples, but also, I'm also very dominant. She went on to detail a past spat they had, as well as revealing she told Fotus she was leaving in the days after Jennifer DULOS disappeared. I wonder whether it's not the opposite. I wonder whether it's not that he told her that he was going to be leaving. And it's possible that Fotus used her. Remember, Fotus had a new girlfriend not that long after. Her surname's Curry. He mentions her in this note. He says, I also ask the state to stop harassing my friends, that one and Anna Curry. So I wouldn't be surprised if Fotus was using her as a kind of as an alibi, and first of all as an alibi when during the events we were having sex, we were in a shower, whatever, but then also as an alibi when through part of the disposal, right? And she said, "This is enough. I'm going to Colorado." And there you have it, 2 years of torture that were like a nightmare. Well, it was like that for him as well, right? It was 2 years of torture for him and her. And how do you end that torture like quickly? How do you get that torture to end? Acrimonious told police he begged her to stay with him. Is it not the opposite? Did she not beg him to stay with her? Because in the end, he left her. In the end, he had a different girlfriend pretty early on. And then, again, this reminds me of the sort of words that Chris Watts used. Remember, he said, "I'm hoping that she's somewhere and that she's safe." Remember? And yeah, you have the same kind of language. She says, "I think that she's still somewhere, I hope hiding." Remember, Chris Watts said, I think that they might be huddled up somewhere. Okay, so let's go back to the interview.
And we ate outside. Why you didn't tell me? Like, why you have to hide that? Oh, because maybe, I don't know, you can get it annoyed, you can get worried.
So have you been worried in the past, or it's just that one time?
No, that's one time, because
Thanks a lot, Kate. Thank you.
Contact. And I got so upset. I grabbed the phone, I threw it on the floor, and I said, okay, I mean, you're being very disrespectful for me. And I walked away. He goes, Michi, no, come, let's talk. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk. And he goes, please, let's talk. And let me tell you what happened. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know anything about it. It's enough. And I go to, he goes, no. That was that conversation after Jacob, which.
So we mentioned disdain earlier, we mentioned contempt. You've just heard her sister saying she did everything that she could. She spoke to the police, I think, for 10 hours, giving them all the information they wanted. You know, she what more could she have done, right? And that's one interpretation. You might look at this and say, here is someone that is just giving law enforcement absolutely everything that they want. Right? What did she do wrong? But another interpretation could be that you could say, doesn't she have contempt for law enforcement? Meaning, she doesn't tell them the truth. She pitches a false alibi, right? She's got 3 people in front of her, law enforcement officers in front of her, and is she telling them the truth? If she's not telling them the truth, that is contempt. That is, you are sitting here spending time trying to do your job, trying to find somebody, right? And am I going to help you, or am I going to pretend to help you? Am I going to bullshit you for 10 hours? Is it 10 hours of cooperating or 10 hours of bullshitting, or a little bit of both?
I don't know if it was a Saturday or Sunday.
We can stop it right now.
Did Doc go to the house on Wednesday?
Ladies and gentlemen, what we plan to do this afternoon.
Oh, right.
Counsel
I
stipulate.
got that wrong.
Yes, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, not Bodica. Okay.
We're going to continue playing it.
Which I think is weird. The wife apparently put like a.
It's important that we get the details right.
Sorry, Judge, we're just going to get to 216:57, which is where we left off. We had closed out the file.
Thank you.
And he goes, please, let's talk. And let me tell you what happened. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know anything about it. It's enough. And I go to Nicole's room. That was that conversation after Jacob, which I don't know if it was a Saturday or Sunday.
Fotus told you he did not go into the house on Wednesday?
No, he told me that the kids said hi, that everything was fine, that they had a nice time. He wasn't precise about the place.
You were saying something about hair? What were you saying about?
Jacob was saying, write down everything as you were by the time you spent in Jennifer's house. Where did you eat? Did you put any plates inside the house? Do you remember going to the bathroom? And Fotis said, no, I did not.
My father said that to Jacob.
To Jacob.
To Jacob, that he had never been in the house.
Yes. And
Did
then
he
he
have hair? You said maybe hair went in.
because he said, well, Jacob, I don't know if maybe a hair went in because we were playing, we were hugging, and maybe in the kids' clothes.
Was he bald there?
Yes.
She had his whole body, so how did hair?
Yes.
Or
That's what he
Jacob
said.
told him to write down everything that happened on Wednesday.
And
Do you know if he did write it down?
The one we wrote like rapidly was the one on Friday.
Rapidly?
Bueno, rapidly was.
Why was Hartford missing from that on Friday? On Friday, both of you seem to miss Hartford, both of you.
When
And that's pretty clear that you're dumping trash all over the city and not have it in your mind to say, no, we weren't Hartford dumping trash. That is not there. That's one thing we pressed you on after your arrest. You actually finally gave it to us.
Can I show you that for people?
Yeah.
Can I show the one I did, or is that not supposed to show?
Yeah, I mean, if they're saying.
Or even put in Fotus's writings, like Hartford,
Okay, I don't
that's a
know.
pretty
I didn't-
important, that's where we found everything.
Okay,
That's
I know, but I didn't.
That's what led this to you now.
I know, that's why.
And that's, it looks bad, it looks bad.
She did one for you after Eddie. Or, you know.
Do you see how when he kind of catches her out, she gets quite sort of passive. She sort of lowers her head, and she's very different. I mean, he's right. She's saying they asked us to provide all the information, and all sounds great. But then he says, "Yeah, but you know, you left out everything about Hartford." And she's like, "Yeah." She's almost like saying, "You know, stop. You know, it's true, but don't push it."
Well, because what I did, I went from my AT&T account to my daughter's. Well, to my daughter's phone, my mom's phone. So in between information of the people that I know I talked that day, I said, please send me screenshots. I forward them to Andy because my I don't have it. And I went and then because I don't remember, like I'm so in shock, I don't remember. So I said, why I spoke with my mom 16 minutes? So I called, I mean, my mom is here. I said, Mommy, what did we talk about? And she said, we talked about you coming to my yard.
Can you see how animated and excited she can get? Like again, I'm struggling to hear what she's saying. Instead, I feel like I'm seeing the kind of person that she is. Very excitable, very animated, very passionate. Right?
Sure. This was 3 hours.
Yeah. Still red.
Still going?
Yeah, still red. Red beans.
Yeah, we're still going.
Red dot. So we are,
That I remember happening. So yes, Fotus wanted us to do a timeline because supposedly Jacob told him.
Did Fotus tell you what, hey, you know what, do the timeline, but don't say anything about Hartford, about throwing in the trash?
Well, that's what you asked me. No, he said, let's do a
You
highlight.
know, smart like Andy? Wow.
Oh.
I came up with the same question you did, so I feel smart.
Ah.
Oh.
No, we just said, yeah, like write what you did, so you don't forget. He kept saying that, like write.
So I suspect that was quite a big moment, which is where the officer asks, did Fotus ask you to leave out the Hartford part? And then she looks over to her lawyer and she says, oh, that's what you just asked me about. Well, like a moment ago, they just stepped out of the room to have like a private conversation that the officers can't hear, especially so that they wouldn't know about that part. And then she says, oh, well, that was what he asked me about. And he kind of blanches a little bit. Did you guys notice that? I think that's what they're chuckling about. Shall I play that little part again? Remember, he's just left the room. And anyway, let's.
That would be in the house like that.
Yes, because he takes the keys that it's in the drawer to pick up the car that he's taking, and usually we're sleeping, he comes in.
Where does he leave his keys? Does he ever leave his keys with the house?
No,
You guys-
in his car or inside his bedroom.
I'm just trying to figure out patterns of behavior, that's all.
Yeah, and Fotis did say, right, he said, I am here, I said, no, I have it in my mind, I don't need to write anything. That I remember happening. So yes, Fotis wanted us to do a timeline because supposedly Jacob told him.
Did Fotus tell you what, hey, you know what, do the timeline, but don't say anything about Hartford, about throwing in the trash?
Well, that's what you asked me. No, he said, let's do a highlight.
You know, smart like Andy? Wow.
Oh.
I came up with the same question you did, so I feel smart.
Ah.
Oh.
No, we just said, yeah, like write what you did. So you don't forget. He kept saying that, like write what you did, so you don't forget.
Did he go over it with you after you had written?
No.
Did you guys, he compare notes with you? Did he guide you in writing that? Did he guide
No,
you?
but he did go like, okay,
Is it highlight?
we ate.
Just saying, highlight your mind might be junk off trash. If he's telling you, hey, see
No, he said,
So we spoke previously about the 3-page script. You may remember that I said I think there might be a third person's handwriting here, and it's possible that that third person, is this guy Jacob. Apparently Jacob is the one that asked them to do that. So I'm just saying there seem to be 3 people in the room, and there is handwriting there that seems to me to be oversized. There are lines with little arrowheads on it that you don't see elsewhere. So it could be that's the source of that's the third author, if there are 3.
so at what time you read? And I said, I don't know, 12, 1, 2.
But you put, what you're telling us tonight is you did not see Fotus in the morning, correct? You wrote.
No, this was like on Sunday when we wrote. This is
Right,
on the
when you're-
weekend when we wrote that time.
Right, so you're writing the timeline that you saw Fotus in the morning, you guys took a shower together, you guys had breakfast. And in this interview today, you haven't seen him. So what I'm asking you is,
We have breakfast.
in the original timeline, you saw all this stuff? Yes.
In your notes, the point Michelle is being made is that when you and John and I first talked, you told us you got off and you took a shower over Fotus.
So look at the body language there. She's literally got her hand over her mouth. It's almost like, what did I say?
You guys had breakfast, and a lot of this stuff is in the timeline that Fotus wrote.
Breakfast, I don't remember.
Now you've changed that.
And she's saying almost under her hand, I don't remember, right? And what they kind of accusing her of is giving an alibi that wasn't true. That's a really, I mean, think about what we're talking about here. In a murder investigation, I don't think there's anything worse than, or perhaps the only thing worse is blaming someone, falsely implicating someone else. But I don't know if there's anything worse or more inculpatory than giving a false alibi. I mean, it's quite simple. If you didn't commit a murder, you've got an alibi. And conversely, if you did commit a murder, if you are involved in a murder, you have a problem with your alibi. It's not going to add up. So why are there problems with their alibis?
For a shower, we're trying to see.
Breakfast.
No, you probably.
No, yes.
All right. Who wrote this?
That's not me, yeah. That's not.
Detective Kimball, I paused the video at 2:26:36.
So what's quite interesting here is the question was asked, who wrote this? And as far as I understand, I haven't actually watched this previously. It's now dealing with those scripts, those timeline scripts, those alibi scripts. And so now the question is, whose handwriting is this? And this is where she's going to say, that's my handwriting, I presume. And that's Fotus's handwriting, and we'll see if there's a third person.
Could you just indicate for the jury what you're showing the defendant at this point?
I'm showing her a photograph on my phone of a timeline that we believe was written by Fotus DULOS.
Okay, and I can just have states 74 and 75.
It's true.
Get closer.
You're not up close.
Yeah, you state 75. You just take a look at that. What is state 75?
This is a single sheet, double-sided, handwritten timeline for Friday the 24th and for Saturday the 25th, 5/25/2019.
Does that appear to be a photocopy or an original?
This appears to be original.
And is that what you were showing the defendant on your phone?
A photograph of this, yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Photograph of this exhibit, is that right?
That is correct.
Could I just ask the witness to just hold that document up so I don't have to come up there, just lit up me, so I can see which one it is? Thank you.
And actually, I'll ask you to show it to the jury as well.
Both sides?
You may remember that there's not just 3 original handwritten pages, there's also a triplicate, a set of photocopies of that as well. So it wasn't just willy-nilly writing the note out. It was, here's one set for me and one set for you. Let's stick to it.
Now, did the defendant, you've indicated that you interviewed the defendant also in August, is that correct?
Correct.
And did you show the defendant a handwritten or photocopy of a handwritten timeline in August?
Yes.
Okay. And hand you state 74. So, and before you open it, did the defendant identify which timeline she had written to you?
Yes.
I'm going to ask that you take out that timeline and show that to the jury, Mr. Shaw.
This is number 74.
74. And which of these three documents did the defendant identify as having been written by her?
These two.
Okay. Directing your attention to the document that's in your right hand, can you just hold that up for the jury? You okay, John?
Yes, could you just somehow identify that, since there's 3 separate sheets in that same envelope, which one, please, for the record, please?
This is a photocopy of a handwritten timeline beginning at 6:40 a.m.
That's enough, I think.
And I'm actually.
Well, he's handing that with his bare hand.
Jury, the
Did you
last
see that?
entry on that timeline which the defendant entered.
Last time entry is 5:10.
Is there any mention of dumping trash in that timeline?
There is not.
So no mention here of a third author. Come. Come back. And that's quite an important question, because we do want to know, is there a third
Video back up at
person that's an accessory here?
Sister, did you write this?
No, that's not my
Okay, okay, last one I'm asking you. How about this? Did you write that?
That's not my
Do you recognize that handwriting? Okay, so Saturday looks like Fotus wrote the Saturday document? Okay, I'm just labeling it for the video. So Saturday, 5:25, that looks like Fotus's handwriting to you? Is that okay? And I'm only showing parts. This also, that's not your writing?
No, my writing, that's
This one
what
just, okay, so Fotus wrote Friday and Saturday.
of his timeline, not mine.
Well, this is actually, it has elements of both of you. Right.
Pero he wrote it, not me. That's not my.
Well, that's why I'm
Right,
asking.
you were asking because Fotus is.
Where it sounds like he's writing it, because it's writing it, because it doesn't say I, it says, it says Michelle.
That's him. Like,
Michelle, where would your letter be?
Yeah.
can I show you?
No, did you,
The one you wrote with Jamie.
the one that you wrote, in the, with that step for the Tuesday, did you leave it at the house?
He photocopied and he put it in a bag, in
In
a
written?
suitcase, yes, in a bag, in a black suitcase,
Okay.
with a computer of his own.
How many computers normally in that suitcase?
What was that? That Guillaume was a guy that worked for Fotus, but he's.
So I think that is the text that they're referring to. It's just disappeared. try and bring it back. Right, that is, it's got Saturday at the top, and that is Fotus's handwriting. And you can see that's very distinct from this. I'll try and put it on the same page. We just pause it. I don't know if I'll be able to put it on the same page. That's, I think, Michelle's handwriting. Starts at 6:40, and this is Fotus's. You can see the zeros are quite different. The nines are different. And I've mentioned this before, but her handwriting kind of slants forward, right? And if you ask me, that's a perfect indicator of the kind of personality that she has. She's quite forceful, quite passionate, quite driven, quite expressive, quite emotional. And I think that slant to her handwriting, which you see over here, shows that forcefulness that she has.
Photograph copies of this letter, by the way. And normally, are there one or more computers in that bag?
I don't know
You
because
don't know. That's fine. I don't know the perfectly reasonable answer. That's why we're asking.
And there's another big computer all in the office that I do all the Photoshops.
So I'm a little bit confused. I'm not sure if you guys know the answer to this, but earlier she said she didn't need to write anything down because she can have it in her head, right? I don't know whether is she denying that she wrote down one of those scripts. I know she's denying that the Saturday script is hers. Is she denying the other one is hers as well? I'm not sure if I'm following.
The pictures, because it's the only one that has programs.
Does Pavel have a computer?
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, Earth. Sleep well.
Pavel works for Fotus before I met him, so I don't know.
So you don't know.
So you said you.
And Andy, there was another guy working. It's called Andy,
DULOS.
and he was there that week. He went for a day, I think Tuesday or Wednesday, to work on Acrimonious budget for what Fotus do. But I did see Andy in the office on Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't remember.
So you said you made a photocopy of the letter you wrote. Where did the original letter go? Because you made a copy of it, but you took the copy of the thing. Where's the letter?
The letter
Yeah.
is the one that I gave you.
That's the one you wrote with the other attorney the day after.
I didn't write anything between us.
No, you wrote it at because
Fotis told me
Told you
that
to,
Jacob
right, yeah.
said, right at
if
time,
you have your original, you have it.
and I have,
She gave it to us.
Yeah, no, okay, that's what I was wondering, if you left your original there or what, that's what I was asking.
put it
No,
in
thank you,
my
now
purse,
you got it.
and I took it with me, and there was a copy supposedly, maybe there's not, did you find my copy? In that
I
bag?
don't know, I wasn't there, so can't really answer that.
You talk about Andy DULOS. You know his name up
Well, because he was there on Tuesday or Wednesday for a
after.
day.
Okay. You had, what was the last time?
After.
Before. Before Jennifer was missing, or the Tuesday after Memorial Day? And prior to that, when was the last time you saw Andy Lewis? Is it frequent he comes by or?
He used to work for
Yep.
He was hired, full-time job. When I was in Colorado, apparently Fotus said, Andy, I cannot pay you more. I didn't know until I arrived because I asked him, where's Andy?
How long ago was that?
What?
That you're talking about?
No, this is in March.
March. Well, yeah, this is good. So back in March, Andy Lewis is gone. With the business. With the business.
From Ford Group.
You from Ford Group.
Yes.
Since March till Jennifer's disappearance, is Andy come around often? Do you see him? How was his relationship with Fotus was?
Work. With Gabriel, he has a better, stronger relationship because he knows Gabriel used to be the one that will do his walls of the house. So he would be like an independent contractor. And then
Well, a lawyer can't seem to find it.
Fotus hired him to be like a project manager.
Andy.
I mean, no, Gabriel.
So what I'm asking is from March, when Fotus lets Andy go from the business.
Yes, I probably
When was the
saw
last time you
Gabriel
saw? Yeah.
maybe 3 times more in my life.
Was it unusual that he was there on that Tuesday?
Well, for what Fotis said, I called Andy, so he pays him by the day, I guess, I don't know.
Okay.
But I called Andy to help me work on the Pavlovis budget.
Okay. Does Lewis and Pavel, do they dirt bike together? I don't know if he just brings them back, you guys have a lot of property.
Pavel's
they go off.
bike, Honda,
Yeah.
and he's driving, and if you can see, it's mine, it's under my name.
Does he go back there with any friends other than you?
Two.
And Pavel, you and Fotus go back there.
I only treated Pavel only one time.
What's that?
That was this road.
Okay.
This big loop, only one time, and that was like 3 weeks ago.
What was
I
it?
don't ride with
I thought I'm just kind of losing track here, but the 15 times. What was
with Fotus and me.
Smaller group.
Gotcha. All right, I don't want to get.
Of the 15 times, some of them, there was 1 or 2 of the big ones.
Gotcha. And then you mentioned Pavel goes back there too.
Only one time with me.
With you. And you
And
know.
that I know, and I think he posted for what his impression was, that my impression that I got from him, that he'd never been there before.
Was it just you and him or Fotus was there as well?
When we went, no, that can't remember what we did.
Okay, so when you guys did that,
So I'm sorry, but I'm a little bit frustrated because I think a simple question was asked: did you write the alibi script? And then they looked like they're trying to find it, and then I don't know if they ever do find it. I don't know, just quite frustrating. Did I miss something?
stop and taking the sights anywhere and like walk around, or you just?
Just go, I mean, yes,
Right.
I stop it, like if I fall, if Fotis fall, which with the 3 of us we fell at some point in one of the,
But you didn't stop and spend time in a certain area, or you just rode, fell down the road.
yes.
So after Friday, the 24th, has he been on his dirt bike back there? Has he been going back, right, doing this?
Not that I know.
When he came back from the backwoods dirty, you know, sweating.
When Fotus dirt bikes, does he wear anything on his hands?
Yes, yes.
What does he wear?
And we just bought them in Miami.
You did, what kind of gloves, you know?
What brand?
Yeah, what color? Are they
Black.
black? Are they
It's like.
rubber? Are they leather?
Mine are leatherish, and it has protections here, mine.
Okay.
And I think he bought the same like mine.
Okay.
I think,
So black leather gloves?
or grayish. Either,
Just doing it in common shop.
no.
So
Like
the mother of your daughter, the father of your
I
child.
have a very good relationship. He's
Those are
actually
the-
coming.
Okay, good relationship or bad relationship?
Yes.
He goes missing. How do you react? If hypothetically,
With
they said, hey, the
that's
cold
what
dad is
I'm
missing.
in Argentina looking.
You're trying to help.
You
Exactly.
country in flood Argentina, if you found out that the father of your child was missing.
Okay.
And actually, he wants to go. He's been
Okay,
calling me
okay.
every day.
Well,
Should I go, Michi? Should I
Just
leave?
listens as her.
So, Fotus is, assuming the
Reaction
ex-wife
is the opposite.
goes missing, he gets an attorney, doesn't want to help, and then tells everyone not to talk to the police. Would you
That
do that?
attorney said to me not to talk to the
Okay,
police.
is that normal? Would you do that? Would you do that?
I thought it was, in my mind,
Right.
no. I agree with you, yes, of course.
Right, you're in it, you got television, they're all around you, I think, understand.
No, in my mind, if I would have been told this, I would have gotten
Did you say that to
research.
Fotus?
No, I didn't. But because this has been 2 years of torture
Well, it was
for what Fotis told me.
yes,
Of
divorces
the
are bad,
divorce.
I understand.
She says again, it's been 2 years of torture. But did you hear the analogy he makes? He says, you have a child. If your ex-husband went missing, how would you react? And she says, well, I'd fly to, I think she says Argentina, and we'd try and find him. And then he says, well, that's not what Fotus did. Fotus got a lawyer and he told no one to talk to the police. Don't you find that strange?
And they're together, like best friends, and I never went to torture like this.
That's rare.
Oh,
It's nice. It's refreshing.
We've been sleeping in the same room. I mean, they celebrate still their anniversary.
How is it been hell for you? With the third divorce home? Why is it hell for you?
Because Fotis gets angry each time he comes from court. He's upset because on the weekends that obviously I cannot be with the kids, and because Judge Heller, the last.
So think about what's going on there. During the divorce proceedings, she's not really allowed to be around the kids when there's, visitation, when he has custody of them. So think about it, on a weekend, she's got to be not around. She's got to make herself scarce. Think about what a kick in the teeth that must feel like. So you work 5 days a week, your boyfriend works 5 days a week, the kids are at school, your kid as well, 5 days a week, and you want to look forward to a weekend where you might go, remember it's lifestyles of the rich and famous, where you want to go somewhere fun, maybe go to Miami, maybe go to New York, whatever. But due to the conditions stipulated in the custody process, Michelle's got to not be present when the kids are present, but Fotus wants to see his kids. You can see how that's creating a very untenable situation.
Court order was that the kids spend a Saturday or Sunday, I don't remember which days, 6 hours in Farmington, so I have to move out of the house.
So you're not allowed to be around.
No, I can't. I
Can
cannot.
that make you angry?
Well, because I have to change, I have to look for plans on the weekend.
Absolutely.
So that's why I went one.
Did you hear what she said? I've got to look for a place on the weekend. So like every weekend she's got to skedaddle, get out of this big castle and find some kind of dump to wait out the weekend. Wouldn't you have a bit of scorn if that was, if you had to do that? If every weekend you had to go and find somewhere to wait out the weekend, I wouldn't be terribly happy with that.
One weekend to New York, I took Nicole to stop. Another weekend I went to Boston and I took her to the Ballet of Boston. Another weekend we went to Rhode Island.
Does she sound pissed off? This weekend we went there, then we went there, then we did that.
Nicole.
Yes, and then Fotis appears at night because he spends time with the kids and then he sleeps at
It
night.
seems like your personal life is getting uprooted during these visits. You have to go elsewhere, and that's a huge inconvenience.
Of course.
And I'm sure it
Of
causes.
course.
Day by day life.
I'm sure it caused tension between Fotus and
We would
Mistress.
fight all the
Look,
time.
I'm divorced.
We would fight all the time, yeah. So can you imagine how this went down? Can you imagine if Fotus said, "Hi, Michelle, I need to tell you something. This is what's been decided. When the kids come here, you need to F off. And they're going to be coming every weekend, whatever. I'm definitely going to see my kids." Do you think she'd say, that's nice? Or do you think there'd be like a blitzkrieg and a windmill of blur of limbs I didn't come to America for this, blah, 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 blah. How do you think she responded to that? Do you think she would have been very emotional to be told something like that? Do you think she accepted that?
Common child, and then it's a big inconvenience. But I'm just looking for, nothing for you, but maybe that's a motivator for Fotus to get rid of Jennifer, make his life easier, his relationship easier. You get the kids, he can remove that whole side.
Yeah, and now then I'm like
I'm not blaming you, I'm just saying, he loves you, and it's causing tension. God,
No, but you
but
said
goddamn,
no, maybe
what does he say about that?
He's saying that he wants
I mean,
to.
obviously, he gets angry, right? So what does he say about Jennifer? You know,
Yeah.
the effing swear words, I never want to.
Yes, I never thought she was gonna do this to me. I never saw her this side of her. I sometimes I hope she disappears.
That's quite a revelatory statement, that I never thought she'd do this to me. I hope she disappears. And don't you think, just speaking plainly, don't you think if he said that, she'd say, yeah, or she'd think, or she'd feel, I wish she wasn't part of this equation. It would be so much nice if she just wasn't here. If it would be so much nice if she did just disappear. And isn't that exactly what she did?
I've said that about my class situation.
Yeah, like of course.
And I'm sure it causes tension.
My day-by-day life.
And I'm sure it causes tension between Fotus and
We would
Mistress.
fight all the
Look,
time.
I'm divorced, all of it, divorced, I have a common child, and then it's a big inconvenience. But I'm just looking for, nothing for you, but maybe that's a motivator for Fotus to get rid of Jennifer, make his life easier, his relationship easier. You get the kids, he can remove that whole side.
Yeah, and now then I'm like
I'm not blaming you, I'm just saying, he loves you, and it's causing tension. God,
no, but you
but
said
goddamn,
no,
what does he say about that?
He's saying that he wants
I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
he gets angry, right? So what does he say about Jennifer? You know, the
Yeah.
effing swear words, I never want to.
Yes, I never thought she was gonna do this to me. I never saw her this side of her. I sometimes I hope she disappears.
And I've said that about my.
Now, let me ask you, wasn't that the biggest gesture so far we've seen? Like, she does this big sweeping thing, right? That's like the biggest gesture we've seen in whatever 2 hours, right? With saying the word disappear. I hope she would just disappear. Do you think disappear means disappear? Do you think it means, well, I just don't see her in front of me? Or do you think disappear means wipe someone out? Let's just have a look at that again.
I mean, obviously, he gets angry, right? So what does he say about Jennifer? You know, the effing swear words, I never want to.
Yes, I never thought she was gonna do this to me. I never saw her this side of her. I sometimes I hope she disappears.
And I've said that about my class situation.
Yeah, like that in my head doesn't
Right.
work because with me and Gaston, we co-sign. We travel together, we do vacations together.
And that's the way it should be. That's wonderful co-parenting.
Right.
Amazing.
Gaston has even stayed for Jefferson
That's
2
amazing.
times with Fotis and us, and we've been in Miami, the 4 of us together. With
Right.
Nicole, Gaston, Fotis, and me.
That's wonderful co-parenting.
Like, in my mind,
So I really don't think you can avoid talking or thinking about just the emphatic way that she gesticulates, that she gestures. It's extremely She's extremely expressive. She's extremely passionate. She's extremely emotional. It's extremely with feeling that she's talking, right? She hunches up her shoulders. She waves her arms around. Her hands go like this and like that. And it's extremely physical, the way that she's talking and expressing herself.
That's why all this is like, what?
For the
Oh, and I really like Gaston. He's a super nice guy. I mean, and if I have to choose another father, I choose him 100 million times. I'm not gonna change.
That's the normal thing to say. That's normal.
Yeah, I love him. I love him as a person and a father of my son. So
But Fotus didn't feel that way about
no, she.
You said that he said he wanted her to go away. It disappeared.
Yeah, but
Let's just in jest. You say things in jest. No one thinks it's really gonna happen.
Yeah, how many times I say like when I kill myself.
I could joke at work and I could say, thank God Johnny's not here, he's gone. Like, I wish, we get mad at each other.
In Spanish, there's a saying, and I say it all the time to my daughter, but don't arrest me for this. I say, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah,
You know how many
that's
times
what I
I
was
say
saying
that?
before.
That's also quite a telling statement, where she says, I tell my daughter all the time, I'm going to kill you. It's being quite casual about in a very, very serious setting.
4 kids, I know.
Right. And she go, and
So
she
people
they
say
really laugh because they're like, how are you
because you
gonna
don't
kill
have
them?
that.
So she's minimizing the statement that, I want someone to disappear. She's minimizing that means anything in the context of someone disappearing, someone that's a big rival to herself. She's kind of she's mocking it. Yeah, you are seeing real contempt for the idea, but also indirectly for the person.
I'm gonna kill you with a lot of kisses. Like, let me play, I make a joke. But, I mean, yes, sometimes I say it. And yes, and for this, all
Thinking
this.
about something is one thing, but it's when
I
you
know,
actually.
yeah, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna kill no one.
So, are you, maybe tomorrow you can take these guys and show them the moto?
Just, we'll have to do some coordinating through the water company and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's no water going.
Well, it's a reservoir property, so I'm not sure. Technically, you guys own that property? No, so I figure there's some type of, regional water.
Gotta figure out who's land.
So we gotta make sure we're gonna go on there the right way.
It's the TMB, something like
Yeah,
that.
She thinks it's the Department of Environment.
Yeah, you think it's
Yeah, so we'll just set that out on our end.
the other one, the word, income.
So in the
Yeah.
we'll figure that out. The bottom line is willing to go with some people to show us where you're talking about.
The only thing that through the woods, we're gonna have to do it walk and it's gonna take us probably like 2 hours.
That's fine.
For the path's wide enough for a vehicle, or
No,
for a truck.
for the gravel, yes.
So someone says here she was in the plan she's no innocent bystander. Now, if you think about, again, just this kind of person, does she seem like the wallflower type? Does she seem like the passive type? Does she seem like someone who doesn't know everything about what's going on? Does she seem like someone who doesn't, I'm talking about in her own family, in her own home, doesn't get involved in everything? Thanks a lot, Jennifer. Thank you. I remember you were following the Mariah Wilson case as well, right? What I'm trying to say is, does she seem like a passive personality that would let somebody else do their thing and she wouldn't know about it? And does she seem like that kind of person? Or does she seem like someone who's very involved, very caught up in things, very, what's the opposite of passive? Aggressive. Does she seem quite aggressive? She seems very clued up on what's going on in the divorce, and she's very caught up in it. She's directly affected. She's directly being maligned and humiliated in front of her kids, and she wants to claim her turf. This is, I'm his woman, and right. she's going to stake her claim. Do you think she's going to do that passively?
Part of it's gravel, under the power lines.
Oh, it's like under the power lines, but it kind of have like another
Have you ever
road.
know those little gators of like those little mini vehicle, four-wheel drive vehicles?
Yes.
Or ATVs for
That
the
fits,
that
not
would-
in the walls, no, because there's a lot of
I
roads.
think it should be one. Yeah. I think it's slowly. So, that's not good for you. I'll call you. Yeah. Right.
But Andy, you're coming with me, so.
No, we're moving.
So I must say, I often find the very beginning of a interrogation, the very end, very telling, because often statements are made casually. Often you're not guarded, you're not in a state of vigilance. You're in a state of either letting your guard drop or putting your guard up, but it's not quite in place. And we are in the last 10 minutes of this particular session, and you can see there's just a lot of casualness. Look at that particular picture on screen. Look how everyone's smiling, and there's kind of a sense of feeling comfortable with one another. And it's in a situation like that that statements are made offhand that can be quite telling.
I have to be in court first thing tomorrow morning, so if this is gonna happen.
It probably takes some more time.
Yeah, I mean, full of resources in the waterfront.
What if we go with two guys that know small town, we go behind?
Well,
We'll just.
in a perfect world, yes, but.
We'll figure the logistics out.
So when do you wanna do this? When?
As soon as we can.
Tomorrow, Saturday, Saturday.
Tomorrow's.
No, tomorrow's Friday.
Right, yeah, no.
Tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, whatever.
Saturday I can't. Tomorrow I'm in court first thing in the morning, which I can try to, get done. Okay, yeah. Which court? No.
Oh, I think you're at.
Well, you wanna take care of it? I mean, if you want, go. I can get out of there. Hopefully I'll be able to get out of there.
When you get there, just text me and I'll tell them to give you whatever date you want to get you done. It's easy.
Well, I don't have that much clothes, guys, I would like to start home with our.
Yeah, she's homeless, she has no
So what do
clothes.
you wanna arrange that?
So, and I have this thing in the foot that I cannot put a boot, so the
We can set something up.
Okay.
so, but I need another shoes. Otherwise, I don't have clothes, I don't like.
Okay, no problem. We can bring it right and let her get what she wants to her, so. Okay, great, good goals,
Okay.
I can give you, that's another thing I have to ask, can I give you like a list, because Nicole is living on the.
They're gonna let you go in. If you don't care. They're gonna let you go in.
Oh, it's. Okay.
Is this, can I take Nicole, or it's like a mess, like everything is
It's
like.
probably better not to take her out, but in case, talk to her about what she wants. See if I, they'll say, if I can go and get you whatever you want, what would you get? And then
No,
if
and
you
I
get it
know all
for
the
her,
ski
if you get it for
equipment
her,
is
then you
the most
surprise her,
important.
that way we'll try and get it done for you. But I'd rather her not.
Because if she goes and there is something, it's not gonna be a good sight.
Is the house like a mess, like upside down? Like,
It's pretty neat.
They just now, do you understand what they're saying? If there's something in there that is a surprise and it's terrible, you don't want
Yeah,
to
it
miss
is.
it.
Okay, no, I'll go wherever it takes me.
When-
The most important is take her ski equipment out of there, because she's going to Argentina, and she's training, she's competing.
Listen, they just told you, go in and get it, okay? So you're.
So that's quite an interesting comment from Christina, and I think it's because of how she appears in court. In court, she seems like this mousy librarian, right? And I think that's done on purpose. She is supposed to seem meek and passive, and this is a different side to her. This is another side to Michelle.
So I can plan ahead for those guys out there, I mean, what time frame would you be looking at? I just gotta make some calls, you know.
Yeah, but it's something.
My only responsibility now is taking go to school. But I think you have the schedule, we should have school tomorrow. Can I ask my mom?
Yeah.
Well, if she has school, she starts at 8, so again, same, 6:40, well,
I'll have time after.
By the way, I heard somewhere, can't quite remember where I remember saying this. It could have been this interview, it could have been the one we dealt with yesterday. But she says very clearly in that Nicole was usually home at about 3 p.m. And that someone mentioned this as well, but that she had a show that night, the night of the murder, the night that the disposal occurred in Hartford. That was unusual, where she came home after 9 or something like that. But she very clearly says that there's a very obvious, regular schedule for her daughter. She was always home by 3. Well, not that day. That to me is also a very significant aspect. Is it a coincidence that all of this happens on the day that her daughter just doesn't happen to be around that whole day? Or is it by design? If it's by design, then it is conspiracy.
We finished the call.
Yeah, well, we have guys there, I just want to keep that, we'll figure it out, give them the time when they're showing up, talk to the state's attorney, this is good. You know, just build this escort her through whatever she needs to get.
And then we'll find a day where we can all go for a little higher.
Is it gonna be tomorrow?
Hopefully.
Well, my only thing is if we go on that.
It's not, it doesn't matter, that's what I mean.
I'm just saying if we found something.
Just in case.
No.
But this part we can do in a car, because we're not gonna walk all this is gonna take forever.
We're gonna lose some weight, so.
We're gonna know, I lost already 3 kilos. This we can do in a car, this is the part that we need a moto or walk.
It's quite interesting that here she's actually trying to control or direct her own questioning. She's saying, we're going to do it like this, otherwise it's going to take forever. It's quite interesting that there are 3 men in front of her, and she's kind of managing how she wants to have the questioning done.
Because this is in between the trees, there's a log. This part we can do perfectly in car, and this takes car maybe 5 minutes.
We're going to do it like this, we're going to do it like
There's
that.
parts that we go, I think, yes, we can.
They'll set it up, don't worry. We'll get it figured out. Do you want to see if they want to do that?
Yeah, I can call, they're there, so hold the house, so.
They just have to be able to swing in, by the way, home to get the stuff she wants.
But I have to pick up Nicoletta
You better get going. Where is she? It's Friday.
in the school.
You gotta go. You gotta go now.
Well, I know, but I do.
No, what I'm saying, we gotta do that, let's do it.
So I'll call up there.
But
So we'll do it,
We'll forward.
yeah, we'll fix that, we'll do it
But I
today,
have
we'll do it
to-
tomorrow.
yes,
You're gonna pick her up,
because
you're gonna be with her,
you know
don't
what,
spend her
because-
time with tonight. Don't do that, be a mom tonight. Tomorrow you drop her off at school, we'll figure the rest out.
Yeah.
because otherwise I go to work to you. And I don't wanna, and in the house, I'm not gonna go with you. Is it okay?
You can go with the house.
But you
You
guys
can
are
go.
gonna ask me questions?
No.
Nobody's gonna ask you anything,
No.
you're gonna get the stuff
You're
you
gonna
want.
get your stuff, aren't you? Isn't that what you want?
Get Nicole stuff, and I,
Yeah.
if I can
And
take things
yes.
from me, yes. Okay, thank
You
you.
won't talk, you'll ask questions,
Okay.
we'll figure out what time.
But I have to get the suitcase, all the boots.
Something else she was asked about, I'm not quite sure where it is in this tape, but she was asked about, isn't there a Ring doorbell system in your home? And she said, no, there's one at the neighbors. I found that definitely quite interesting. Why would the officer ask about a Ring doorbell system if there wasn't one? I mean, it's possible there was one, but it was deactivated. But that's also quite an interesting aspect of this.
So I'm gonna have to walk.
Yeah, just keep in mind, you don't have to answer. Like, we're not gonna be asking you questions, we don't ever feel compelled like you have to answer anything, like you can stay quiet.
Yeah.
Like, it's your right.
Tell us to be quiet if you want.
Tell us, yeah.
Yeah.
If you want complete silence, we're not gonna say.
No, but
It's your right.
if Andy's not there, they're not gonna talk to you tomorrow.
Look, we're not trying to do
Is it
anything
gonna be-
bad to you, we just want to find Jennifer, if you can
And
help
you're
us,
not
that's
gonna put like,
wonderful.
okay, my fingerprint
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
that's already done.
You're done, you're ready to do it, you're helping us.
You're helping us, in which.
We're walking with you.
No, but I see the movies that it's not like the typical setup.
No, there's no sense.
Have we treated you,
Have we in the room here done something different than what we told you ever? Other than when we took photos the second phone that first day? No, we've treated you well. We're not lying to you, we want to find
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, go get her, go get her. And then Andy will talk to you tomorrow.
Okay,
You can go pick up stuff, okay?
okay, thank you. Can I take this as mine?
13:59 or 15:59?
So you stay with the first
15,
part?
yeah. We want 15.
So it's quite interesting that black satchel that she puts all her paper in. That reminds me of the black bag that those notes were found in as well. Before we go to, and I think we'll just spend another 10 minutes on this, but before we go to that, let's return to these highlights. Where was the last one? While Draconis was talking with the detectives about when Fotus DULOS had her shave his head, Kimball said he didn't buy the answer based on how fast the freshly shaved heads of state police cadets grow back hair. So I think she was trying to say that it had happened way in advance, and the cops. I'm also someone who shaves my head. I know what the pace is of hair growing back as well. This is quite a major concession. I don't know whether it's part of the ruse, but it's certainly something the defense can work with. State's Attorney Richard Colangelo interrupts to tell Draconis he doesn't believe she had advanced knowledge of Jennifer DULOS's killing, which she's now accused of helping to plan. So that is something that needs to be considered. I would not have talked to your attorney and asked you to come in if I thought in a second that you knew what he was going to do. I would have just said, both arrest them. That also came up. Nobody in the world believes you. And this was in terms of the alibi that had been changed. She told police she didn't actually shower with Fotus DULOS. Instead, she saw the co-defendant in DULOS's home office that morning. Doesn't she look different in this picture? She looks like she's 10 years older. We know you know. We just want you to come clean and tell us everything you know. He said the interview was Draconis' chance to not be charged with murder. Did you guys know that to be an accessory, sorry, I could be wrong. I think to be charged with conspiracy in Connecticut, in the state of Connecticut, carries the same sentence as if you committed it yourself. So the stakes are pretty high. This is also quite interesting. During Troconis's first interview, police told her they feared for her life. And they mentioned that Fotus was staring at her. I don't know if it was some intimidation factor or if he was trying to signal something to her. Police officers noted Fotus DULOS appeared overly concerned with Troconis's statements and behavior, right? And then described it as he looked like he was staring a hole through your head. He gave you the most evil look I ever saw. Is that a ruse? Is that part of the ruse? Was that gaming her? Was that true? And I think that's it. Really good article. Let's just deal with a little bit more from this testimony. I think we'll wrap up at about the 3-hour mark.
Detective Kimball, during the course of the interview, the defendant indicated to you that she and Mr. DULOS went to Starbucks on May 24, 2019. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And were efforts made to investigate that, corroborate that?
Yes.
And were you able to review surveillance footage from Starbucks from May 24, 2019?
Yes.
And were the defendant and Mr. DULOS present in Starbucks?
Yes, they were.
Would that have been before or after the trash was dumped?
That would have been after.
During the course of this interview, Pavel Gugliani's Toyota Tacoma was discussed. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did the defendant ever indicate during this interview, June 6th, that that Toyota Tacoma was at 80 Mountain on May 24, 2019?
No, she did not.
Did you have occasion to interview the defendant again?
Yes.
What date?
August 13, 2019.
And between June 6, 2019 and August 13, 2019, did the investigation into the disappearance of Jennifer DULOS continue?
Yes, it did.
And did you learn additional information?
Yes, we did.
Did you have an opportunity to review surveillance footage and Fotus DULOS' phone?
Yes.
Did you have an opportunity to receive additional DNA information?
Yes.
She was asked to participate in another interview, is that right?
Yes.
I have nothing further at this time, Judge.
Thank you. This is a natural break. We will resume at 3:30. Please do not discuss the case.
When she was arrested, she was in the room with her daughter, right?
I was not aware of that, no.
Well, did you have any input as to whether she should be arrested in front of her 12-year-old daughter or not?
Just going to object, Your Honor.
Well, grounds.
Assumes facts not in evidence, hearsay.
Come on.
Well, the question is, did you have any input into the decision of having Michelle Troconis arrested in front of her daughter? Well, he would have personal knowledge as to whether he had input. But the other objection is hearsay. If the other objection is hearsay, that's overruled.
I had no input on whether she was arrested in front of her daughter, no.
You were not the you were the investigating officer as of that date, correct?
I don't think I was the lead investigator as of the 1st of June.
Okay. There was a sergeant that you were aware of who was up in Avon that day, correct? State police sergeant?
Yes.
All right. And when Miss Troconis arrived in New Canaan, she was in handcuffs, wasn't she?
Yes.
And you were made aware, and you were aware that she was brought to New Canaan because that's where the state's attorney, Colangelo, had said she should be brought, correct?
Correct.
Now, you've interviewed many people over the years as a police officer, correct?
Yes.
And you've actually received training in interrogation techniques, haven't you?
In an interview and interrogation technique.
And you've seen how people react when they're afraid, right?
Yes.
You've seen how sometimes people might be afraid, but they act calm, right?
Yes,
They sometimes are nervous, right?
I would expect them to be nervous at times, yeah.
Well, especially if it's a situation they're not used to, right?
That's a natural. Result, yeah.
Unknown situations for a lot of people if they suddenly find themselves in police custody.
Well, what is the question?
All right. People react differently in your experience when they find themselves in police custody. Isn't that a fair statement?
Yes.
So, how can I put this? Would you say there's nothing to see here? In other words, we've now looked at 2 days of her being interrogated. Would you say that her affect, her gestures, her statements are completely normal, like her sister seems to be saying, or would you say they're not? It's quite a simple question. We've seen 2 days of her being questioned. Is it nothing to see here? She's been cooperative or not?
Once the interview started with Mr. Bowman present, right? Did you ever meet Attorney Bowman before?
Not before that day, no, sir.
Had you had any of the other officers in New Canaan who were there met him before?
I don't know.
Were you aware that he had been a lawyer for approximately 50 years?
No, I was not.
You didn't know that?
No.
Because I was going to ask, did you know that we were probably in high school or younger when he was already practicing law, but you don't know the answer to that, right?
That's correct. I do not.
At the beginning of the recorded interview, we see you reading a form that had what we are commonly known as the Miranda rights, correct?
The notice and waiver of rights, correct.
You say first you did the notice, right?
Correct.
Then there's a part that you refer to as the waiver, correct?
Correct.
Now, we've learned since then that that form that she signed has disappeared or is not located, correct?
That is correct.
But in any event, the whole time, we can see her at least signing some piece of paper. Is that right?
Yes.
And her lawyer was there when that was being done.
Yes, he was.
You were not offering Mr. Conis any kind of promises at that point, right?
No.
You didn't offer immunity.
No.
You didn't offer some kind of proffer agreement, meaning where whatever she says would not be used against her.
I don't have the authority to do that, so no.
Well, if nobody gave you that authority.
That's pretty huge, is that the Miranda rights form has disappeared. Not a good look for the cops.
In any event, right?
Correct.
You were in consult with Mr. Colangelo that evening, were you not?
Yes.
In that afternoon, correct?
Yes.
And this was a weekend, right? The second?
Saturday. That's Saturday the 1st, correct.
And at no time during the interview did Mr. Conis say that she did not want to continue talking with you, did she?
No.
She kept going, right? That is, she kept talking to you, right?
This is the 232. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, and until that interview completed and concluded that Saturday, about 2.5 hours later, right?
Yes.
She told you on that first occasion that she had had nothing to eat since a slice of pizza before her arrest, right?
She didn't tell me that. I was unaware of that. She said that while I.
So I think that came up in the Amanda Knox case as well, that it depends on what you read. Some sources will say she hadn't eaten for 11 hours or she was interrogated for 11 hours, certainly not continuously, and that she didn't have anything to eat. That also came up in the Amanda Knox case. I don't know if you remember in the Chris Watts case, they offered him a slice of pizza, and I think he turned that down.
I was out of the room.
She said it to she said it to Officer Detective Clabby.
Yes.
All right, so let's be clear. You were there, Detective Clabby was there, right?
I was not in the room, but I was in the building.
Did Detective Clabby mention to you that she had had nothing to eat for since before her arrest on the evening of June 1st?
He did not know.
You were also aware, because I think Detective Clabby says it in that first interview, that the night before that, she had been taken up to Litchfield for fingerprinting and things like that, right?
Yes.
You remember Detective Clabby saying the part about DULOS was glaring at her, sort of boring a hole through her. You remember he said that to her?
Yes.
Now you were, and I think he said, that is Detective Clabby said that during that time, Michelle had her head between her knees and wasn't even seeing what DULOS was doing, right?
Yes.
Is that why the two of you at that point expressed concern for her safety?
Part of it, yes.
As part of your technique in investigation, let me just be clear, in your training, are you allowed to feign concern if you wish? You know what I mean by that?
I do. Yes, thank you.
I know what you mean.
Yes.
Are you allowed to lie to people who are being interrogated if they're adults?
Presented deception, yes.
And I think yesterday when you were asked a similar question by Mr. McGinnis, you said I think you used the term ruse. Is that correct?
Ruse?
A ruse. You can create a ruse, like a fake scenario.
A ruse, not a ruse.
You don't remember that?
I don't remember saying that.
Do you remember Mr. McGinnis asked you about, and I'll get to a more specific place, but he asked about whether you told Michelle something that wasn't true, but the goal would be to use some kind of a false statement to try and elicit a response.
Yes.
And you're allowed to do that, right? I mean, there's nothing, nobody's told you can't do that, right?
No.
I have to say, as someone who is, fairly au fait with the English language, I don't know whether it's a pronunciation issue, but something tells me that he may be completely unfamiliar with the word. I'm talking about the defense lawyer. I've never heard of anyone referring to it as a ruse. It's a ruse. I don't know whether the mispronunciation means that he's totally unfamiliar with that word, which for me would be really surprising. I mean, isn't everyone here familiar with that word? It's just something that's kind of unexpected, isn't it? Let's just bring up the word and deal with it. It's R-U-S-E, not R-O-O-S-E, right?
Ruse.
A ruse is a ploy, a strategy, a tactic, a move, a device, a scheme. The fact that a defense lawyer may be unfamiliar with that word is just crazy.
Ruse.
Like I said, it may just be that he's just mispronouncing it, but have you ever heard someone pronounce it as ruse? Crazy.
At the beginning of that first interview, we hear Mr. Conis ask you if you speak Spanish. Do you recall that?
I do, yes.
And you had mentioned that that the rights were available in Spanish, is that right?
That is correct.
Including the waiver of rights, correct?
Yes,
But
correct.
even though you don't have it, you had her sign the English version, correct?
She indicated she spoke English.
You, at the time, you'd never been to that house, correct?
That's correct, yes.
At some point, did you go to that house?
Yes,
So you know it's pretty massive, right?
yes.
So I've already asked other people, so I don't need to go through with you, but you know. So she actually, you used the term shell shocked, and she said she was in shock, right?
And we understand that you could be, I don't know what happened to you. I don't know how I was treating you. I don't know what happened to you. I told you. I know it's been in the last week, there's been a significant change in your lifestyle. And there may be a downward trajectory for you. So you look shell shocked or threatened for me yesterday because you were saying you're safe. You look like, what? I'm shocked. And you're shocked. And that's understandable. We understand.
All right. So she actually, you used the term shell shocked, and she said she was in shock, right?
Yes.
And that just goes to, like I said, that was something that you might find a number of people, that's the reaction if they find themselves under arrest, right?
Yes.
And you'd agree that for many people.
But the part I'm trying to emphasize here is just how different she is during that first interview to the second one. The second one, there's laughter. There's even her saying, we're not going to deal with this. It's going to take too long. There's a lot of levity. She's extremely animated in the second one compared to the first one, where she's quite composed, quite closed, quite reserved. Just a different face to her in the second interview.
People being arrested is a shocking experience.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that you had learned, besides the financial situation that Mr. DULOS was in, was that he surrounded himself by well-off and successful people, right?
We had heard that, yes.
And you talked to some of those people, didn't you? You had interviewed some of them, right?
Me personally, no, but yes, they were spoken to.
The other members of the unit.
Correct. State
Now,
police.
because we've heard from many state police officials and officers and New Canaan police, there were a large number of detectives and officers assigned to this case, wasn't there? Especially in the earlier days.
That worked the case, yes.
That worked the case. Fair to say at least 50 to 100, if you count the uniformed patrol officers that were involved, the troopers?
Fair to say, yes.
And those people who knew Fotus DULOS that you talked to could not believe that he'd even be involved in this. Isn't that correct?
Just subject, Your Honor. Calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
How's that? There have been so many objections from the defense, so many overruled. I actually saw someone on X counting all the sidebars and so on, and then when it came to objections, like double figures in a really short space of time. But, you know, the objections that we've seen from the defense, I think, are ruse, because most of them are overruled anyway. So if you know you're going to be overruled, you know, if everything is being overruled or a lot of it's being overruled, and you can reasonably expect it to be overruled, why are you doing it anyway? Well, it's a ruse. It's to break momentum. It's a strategy, isn't it, to disrupt, to some extent confuse the jury.
After you first met Michelle Troconis in the middle of the night, you saw her at the station when she went to, and then she was allowed to call the lawyer, right?
Yes, yes.
Then you said you went home because you were tired and needed some rest, right?
Yes.
But Michelle Troconis couldn't go home, could she?
No, she was in custody.
She was in custody and she was, at that point at least, denied bail, right?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, mischaracterizes.
Well, because the court knows the legal procedure, the question denied bail is a mischaracterization.
All right, I'll rephrase. She was not allowed to post bail, was she?
Until arraignment, no.
Again, another sustained objection.
I'm going to ask now, do you recall when you asked her to sort of convey what her day was like, to recount her day, that she then responded by using terms like what my normal day was? Remember that?
During the first interview?
Right.
During
And
this.
I'm going to ask Bob, if you go to, I think it's like minute 12. 12:40. 12:40.
I'm trying to find that part where the judge asked him what is the question, where Kimball remains quiet. I'm trying to get to that point.
When we're talking about the beginning of that June 2nd, 2019 interview, and I don't want to play a lot of clips if we recall it. If not, then we'll play it. But you remember, either you or Detective Clabby were telling Michelle that she, from what you knew, she was a good mom, right?
Yes.
And that the media had been tough on her, correct?
Yes.
Would you agree that there was a lot of tabloid media with pictures of Michelle Troconis even before she was arrested?
I don't pay much attention to the media, but I'm aware that there was some coverage of it, yes.
It included her daughter too, didn't it?
I don't
Pictures
know.
of her daughter.
Objection, Your Honor.
In the interim, the house for Jefferson Crossing was being searched. Is that right?
Just object, Your Honor. Vague.
Well,
Between June 2nd and June 6th was the house being searched and the property being searched. By the way, on that, you were shown yesterday and today the written documents, exhibits 74 and 75. And I just want to go over that with you for a minute. You did not have those documents on June 2nd, 2019, did you?
Correct, that is correct. We did not have
They were found in
Um,
the house.
I'm not sure if it's already been asked. I'm not sure.
By the evidentiary services team. And when Mr. Bowman said, yes, she gave it to me, and he sort of held something up as we see in the video, did you believe it then?
To clarify, I'm not sure what she gave Attorney Bowman was the same document that she had prepared and was then photocopied, which we found. She had prepared a timeline, which she had presented to Attorney Bowman.
Well, the two photocopies that were in Ms. Troconis' handwriting, one was a list of incoming and outgoing phone calls, right?
Yes.
In her handwriting.
She identified it as her handwriting.
And it appeared, I believe she said, but did it appear that she had needed to use her phone to document that item?
Yes.
At the time, did you know who was with her when she wrote it?
I'm sorry. Can we get a time frame? I'm confused by the question. At the time.
Do you know when she was writing that document? who was with her when she wrote it?
I don't know when she wrote it, so I don't know who was with her at that time.
At one point, just so that we're clear, she did say in the video, in the second video, that Fotus told her to write down everything, correct?
Yes.
And didn't Attorney Bowman in that first interview say to you that Michelle relies on her phone for specific times? Isn't that what he said? By the way, if you knew a document was being prepared for a lawyer, you wouldn't take that document, would you?
No.
I was going to object, Your Honor, relevance.
Sustained.
So doesn't it sound like Schoenhorn is basically contesting the authorship of the alibi script? Is he undermining? Because first of all, he said that Fotus told her to do it, and doesn't it sound like he's undermining the authorship?
Now, Mr. Bowman indicated to you, if you recall yesterday, that, I think he said that, I want you to understand this is not rehearsed. Any attorney would go over everything together. It's common for attorneys to go over everything in detail. Do you remember that being said yesterday? That you don't disagree with that statement, do you?
I'm going to object, Your Honor, relevance as to whether he disagrees.
Well, as far as relevance, the question is, do you disagree with the statement that essentially a competent attorney would try to review with his client a chronology? Well, really the objection really is foundation. Well, the court is going to sustain the objection.
By the way, could Michelle have stopped answering questions at any time?
Yes.
Could her lawyer, if the lawyer had said, we're stopping, we're not going any further, would you have then stopped asking questions?
Yes.
That never happened, did it?
Correct.
And she never asked to stop, did she?
Correct.
Even after, did Detective Clabby mention that at one point she said she felt dizzy?
Which interview are we talking?
In the first interview.
First interview. I don't remember that occasion.
By the way, at the time that Mr. Fotus was arrested and brought to the New Canaan police station at, what time was it? Approximately
12:50 a.m. is when I saw her
12:50
for the
a.m.
first time on the second.
Mr. DULOS arrested at the same time, wasn't he?
Yes.
He was brought in a separate police car to the New Canaan Police Department, right?
Yes.
There's some discussion about keeping her separate from Mr. DULOS. Was that at your suggestion?
I don't think it was at my suggestion.
When you told Ms. Draconis that Fotus DULOS had not cooperated with the New Canaan Police Department, she seemed surprised, didn't she?
Again, I'm sorry, the first interview we're talking?
Yes.
Yes, I believe she did.
She had indicated to you that Mr. DULOS had told her he went down with Jacob Pietranker to speak with the New Canaan police. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Were you at the New Canaan police station on May 25th when Mr. DULOS came in with his lawyer?
Yes, I was.
But you were not downstairs in the foyer when Mr. DULOS and Mr. Pietranker came in, right?
That's correct. I was.
So you were not a witness to whatever the interaction was with the New Canaan police officers that were there, right?
Trooper Chris Allegro and Officer Tom Patton, but I was not a witness. No.
Okay. By the way, I just want to be clear, I'm going back a little bit here, but when Ms. Troconis asked you if you spoke Spanish, what was your answer?
No, but I don't know of any other attributes of my answer.
Did Detective
said no, I
Clabby, to
don't.
your knowledge, speak Spanish?
Detective Clabby has a Spanish wife. I don't know if he speaks Spanish.
Which is like Hispanic wife, you mean? Is that what, you mean she's from Spain?
She
or
is,
from,
yes.
From Spain?
My apologies. Yes.
Okay. And I also note, and I don't know if the jury knows it, but there were times when she answered in Spanish words. She would say, sí, bueno, pero, right?
Yes.
Do you know what any of those words mean?
Bueno is well. At least that's what it was translated to me.
Mhm.
Sí, I believe, is yes.
How about pero?
Pero, I don't know pero.
I want to just ask you then some questions now about some of the, Judge, I was going to go into a different area. I don't know if this might be I could
A natural
squeeze out
stopping
another
point.
5 minutes, but.
Probably a natural stopping point.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will conclude today's proceeding.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to find, there was a moment that seems like it is quite interesting, even entertaining, where Schoenhorn asks a question and the judge interjects, and so I was hoping that we could end off with that, but it's somewhere in this last 45 minutes. But we're already at 3 hours 20. Timmy is raring to go for a walk. He's you can't see him in the background, but he's definitely getting very agitated. His time has come. He knows it. So I'm gonna skedaddle. I just want to thank you guys for being here again. So Maria, do you know where in this it is? Like at what point in the video it is? Because that's what I'm really looking for. You know, the whole thing is more than an hour long. It's an hour of cross-examination. It's quite hard to stumble on that in an hour. Okay, so I'll try and find it when we do the next live. So obviously I'm not going to be doing day 12 tomorrow or the next day, but I will be doing statement analysis of Scott Peterson, probably on, I'm just trying to think, Sunday. Probably be doing that on Sunday. So look out for that. Thanks for the couple of super chats. Thanks a lot for the mods who really been not only managing chat, but also very interactive and helpful and making your own comments. I think you'll agree that this case is getting quite intriguing. Can you see there's quite a lot of subtlety? Things aren't absolutely black and white. You've got to think critically in order to figure a lot of it out. So yeah, we still have much to learn. I think we are through the first 2 weeks, so we're about a third of the way through this trial. Still quite a long way to go. It looks like quite a grey day outside. I do think the sun is going to come through a little bit later. So anyway, I'm going to bid you guys adieu. It's 7:30 here. I'm sure it's pretty late where you are. Thanks a lot for joining me. Welcome to the new members. Welcome to new subscribers. If you haven't watched my video on the Coburger case, check it out. If you new to this community and you like this community, please join us on Patreon. $3 a month for the most of the content is posted on the $3 tier. Audiobooks, short audiobooks on $5 and long audiobooks on the $10 tier. Thanks so much, Maria. Appreciate it. We've missed Stephanie tonight, but I hope you guys have a good sleep. Sweet dreams, keep warm. I'll try and send some of the hot summer weather we're having. It really has been a hot week your way. Mel says it's only 9:30 here. Okay, well, there's still time for a nice cup of tea or a hot mug of cocoa. It's also good to have Yvonne here. Jody says it's 4:30 in the afternoon in Australia. Isn't the Australian Open final this weekend, Jody? There's the Patreon link. Thanks for that, Chelsea. Bab says it's 12:31 a.m. here. Sleep pretty, everyone. Okay, so that's it. Thanks a lot for joining us. As I say, Pavel Gumeni is going to be testifying probably next week. That should be very, very interesting. His vehicle played a key role in this crime. How was he manipulated? Was he manipulated in the same way Michelle was? I guess we're going to find out. Okay, so that's it from me. Take care. Timmy also says bye-bye.